week. The Singapore Ministry of Health says the nation will move into a new phase of living with COVID-19 from October the 10th. Starting Monday, vaccination differentiated measures will not be required for events with more than 500 participants, at nightlife establishments where there is dancing, and while dining at food and beverage establishments, including hawker centers. Health Minister Ong Ye Kung says that vaccination has become Singapore's primary defense against the virus. For now, masks will still be required in healthcare settings and on public transport. The Land Transport Authority says that 11 stations in the third stage of the Thomson East Coast Line will start carrying paying passengers on November the 13th. The new 13-kilometer stretch will go from Stevens through Outram Park and Orchard to Gardens by the Bay. Passengers can ride the trains for free on November 11th between those new stations. Japanese Foreign Minister Yoshimasa Hayashi is visiting Singapore and Malaysia this weekend. He will reportedly seek support for his country's diplomatic strategy known as Free and Open Indo-Pacific, or FOIP. He is scheduled to meet Singapore Foreign Minister Vivian Balakrishnan on Saturday. Then he will travel to Malaysia to meet with his counterpart there. The United Nations says that global food prices declined 1.1% in September to their lowest point since January. It adds this may give relief to consumers battered by inflation. Agricultural demand is easing on mounting worries about an economic downturn. Crop exports from Ukraine have also picked up, bolstering world grain supplies that were threatened by Russia's invasion. And finally, the Norwegian Nobel Committee is honoring 3 champions of human rights, democracy, and peaceful coexistence in the neighbor countries of Belarus, Russia, and Ukraine. Jailed Belarusian human rights activist Alice Bialiatsky, Russian Human Rights Organization Memorial, and Ukrainian Human Rights Organization Center for Civil Liberties have all won the 2022 Nobel Peace Prize. That's your news wrap. I'm Glenn Van Zutphen. Read more at The Straits Times.
Those were your news headlines from The Straits Times. This is Money FM 89.3, Singapore's most influential radio station. Time check on Money FM 89.3.
9:03.
Weather.
The Met Service Singapore is calling for mostly cloudy conditions across the island all day long. Should be a nice day. High is expected around 32 degrees, a little bit cooler than usual. And our lows this evening, 24. Enjoy your weekend.
Traffic.
And there's heavy traffic on the CTE towards the AYE at PIE Changi exit. A vehicle breakdown on the KJE towards the BKE after the PIE entrance. There was an accident earlier on the PIE towards Tuas after Bedok North Avenue 3 exit. Avoid lane 3. On the causeways, how are we doing? Oh, it's dropped. Woodlands, 27 minutes into JB, 28 minutes the other way into Singapore and Tuas. How are we doing in Tuas? 29 minutes, half an hour into JB and 20 minutes into Singapore. Fairly clear, fairly steady on the roads. Let's keep it that way and let's keep it right here on Money FM 89.3.
If you see anything on the roads that we might have missed, you can share it with us via SMS or WhatsApp at 8855-0893. But please send the message through only when you are safely parked. Helping you grow your money on Money FM 89.3. Money FM 89.3. Financial updates from the Business Times.
I'm Chua Tian Tian with some of the market stories that made the headlines this week. A Delaware judge had halted Twitter's lawsuit against Elon Musk on Thursday, giving the billionaire time to finance his $44 billion takeover of the social media platform. The move came as Musk said this week that he would purchase Twitter at the $54.20 per share price he agreed in April, on the condition the deal could secure debt financing. The judge's order indicated that she would schedule a trial for November if Musk fails to close the deal by 28th of October. Back home, Singapore's unemployment rates fell across the board in August, with the overall unemployment rate slipping to 1.9% for the month. According to the Ministry of Manpower's monthly unemployment situation report, the resident unemployment rate stood at 2.7%, while the figure was 2.8% for citizens. All three rates were 0.2 percentage point lower than their levels in July. This was also the lowest level the unemployment rates have fallen to since March 2016, but the MOM warned that the labour market could see weakness ahead as economic conditions appear to worsen. And finally, let's take a look at how the Singapore stock market ended the week. Singapore shares finished lower on Friday in line with movements in key regional bourses. The Straits Times Index fell 0.2% to 3,145 points. It also kept a lackluster week with a gain of just 0.5% as a result of a two-day rally. Across the broader market, losers outnumbered gainers 256 to 220 as 1.45 billion securities worth a total of 973 million Sing dollars changed hands. Main board listed Sembcorp Marine became the most traded stock. The counter rose 1.7% after 389 million shares changed hands. Other companies worthy of note include Chinese car maker NIO, with the counter sliding 9.6% to $14.47 on Friday. And that's a finance wrap here on Money FM 89.3. I'm Chua Tian Tian.
Those were your financial updates from the Business Times. This is Money FM 89.3, Singapore's most influential radio station.
Heavy departure traffic at Woodlands Checkpoint due to tailback from Malaysia. Delays are expected, and travelers are advised to check traffic conditions before embarking on their journey. Motorists are reminded to maintain lane discipline and cooperate with officers on site. Please follow ICA Facebook for more updates.
Saturday morning, only on Money FM 89.3.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Saturday Mornings. Glenn Van Zutphen and Neil Humphreys with you all the way up until noon today. It is a beautiful day across Singapore. Going to be cloudy today and no rain expected, although we know it can happen just about any time, anywhere. Good morning, my friend. How are you doing today?
I am tip-top. The weather this week, my friend, has been spectacular. Has it not? 24, 25, 26, most of the week. Let's hope it stays
especially
that
if
way.
you're waterfowl.
Yes.
It was just, the rain was bloody heavy everywhere.
One day I went to a school. I went to Nexus International School, and just walking from my place to the bus stop with a very large golf-sized umbrella. The legs down, you know, I look like a sailor, a fisherman, you name it. I had the drenched lower legs. It's been a great week for ducks.
I heard you say golf umbrella. Does that mean you've been hitting the links?
I would rather swim in the canals of Singapore.
I knew it.
A good walk spoiled, my friend, which is completely against all of our listeners. I know Money FM demographic is golf. Good for you.
Well,
not for me. Not for me.
We have the proletariat represented in this.
We do. On that point, I wrote this very, as is my want, sarcastic piece on Facebook last week
that very hard to believe
about my Singapore Grand Prix.
Okay.
And it was, you know, at 3 kilometers, I cycled across Lorong Halus and I saw some monkeys. And at 7 kilometers, I cycled and I saw monitor lizards and so on and so on. Yesterday, my good friend Ho Ching shared that post to her 200,000 followers.
Wow.
So I don't know what to say. So the proletariat is rising, is all I'm going to say.
I think perhaps you two should have tea.
We should. If
Ho Ching's executive secretary is listening, perhaps Neil is available for tea.
Well, I know. I have it on high authority that they used to sit together and read my columns. I'm sure right now they're sitting, listening around the family table, the Lee family. If you are listening, good morning.
Top of the morning to the Lees. Yes.
Feel free to call in at any time.
Or come in. Just stop by. We'd love to have you
in. Miss Ho Ching, if you're listening.
Come on down.
Come on in. Discuss my wonderful Facebook post.
Bring it back to me. Bring it back to Neil.
Bring it back to me. It's all about me.
Hey,
yes.
we got so many friends joining us this morning on Facebook Live, on, of course, 89.3 Radio FM 98.3, 89.3, excuse me, and on the audio app. Which you can stream us anywhere you'd like to in the world. Good morning. Cesc Gaspar is with us out on the east side. Stanley C with us.
Good morning, guys. Good morning. Good to see you all. Now, I've got something I want to talk to Stanley and all our listeners and friends and viewers. Maybe my question of the day. And it wasn't something I originally posted. I saw someone else mention it on Facebook. Yeah. This week, I've been to lots of schools, lots of visits. I've been on the MRT and the buses every day.
Yep.
My question is this: when did we stop turning down our volumes on our phones and devices on MRTs and buses. I don't know if it's a post-COVID thing, but every single day this week, without exception, I've heard Korean dramas, I've heard Netflix serials, I've heard animated cartoons.
Now,
I've
through
heard
the
TikTok.
headphones?
No,
Or...
they're just playing it.
Oh, come on. That's not
They're
right.
just playing it.
That's
You
not
know,
good.
and I put something up on Twitter. A lot of responses. Yes, you do get the older generations. Maybe.
Come on, everybody knows how to use
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
Okay, but
earbuds.
benefit
Excuse me.
of the
Yeah.
doubt, little hard of hearing. You hear those. You hear those. You hear those. I've got a fellow co-host who's hard of hearing.
Exactly.
So they do. But before COVID, maybe I'm looking at this through rose-tinted glasses, but I don't really recall anyone doing it.
Well, you would get the occasional sitting next to somebody who's got headphones on, but they're playing it really loud so you can hear it.
That's gone
through the
on
headphones,
since
right?
time immemorial. Yeah, that's right. And occasionally a phone will go off or they haven't turned down their volume.
You know.
That happens. Right. Now it's a free-for-all. I was on the LRT this week. Whole Korean drama played out on my trip from Senkang MRT down to my stop. On the bus this week, I got a whole range. I got the top 10 clips on TikTok. So I've had this week alone, I've had a nice crime drama.
Oh, good.
And that's the other thing. I was standing next to someone on the MRT this week who was playing a Netflix drama. I tell you what it was. It was the one, the cannibal killer, Dahmer, Jeffrey Dahmer.
Yeah.
He's playing Jeffrey Dahmer out
On the
loud
LRT.
on the MRT. Good morning, boys.
Good family fare, right?
Good morning, boys and girls.
my
Here's the
gosh.
latest episode of a serial killer
Oh my gosh.
to share on the MRT. My question is, when did we stop putting on headphones? Why are we suddenly being less courteous? Is it a post-COVID thing? I think that's lame, but is it? I don't know, but I'm not the first person to comment on it.
Yeah.
If you're noticing it, if you're hearing it, let us know. Money FM 89.3 Facebook Live. But I'm hearing it every single day.
Last week I mentioned the delivery riders and how I felt that they were getting more aggressive and driving more crazy. Again, I saw it this week, but now we're adding the car drivers to it as well. Now that everybody is back and you know the city is buoyant with tourists and people getting out and going to events, everyone's driving like a maniac out there. It's crazy. I'm almost being hit multiple times a day, and I'm still in my post Hawaii vacation. You know, shaka
You're
bra.
stretching that out a bit, aren't you?
Yeah, no, but my
been a while.
frame of mind is still like very chill. When
it's
it
all
comes
very
to driving.
aloha and
Very, very aloha. And man, people are just all around me. It's like they're targeting me. It's like, hey, there's the guy that's relaxed. Let's go after him and stress him out.
I have noticed the rain hasn't helped this week. There was a couple of occasions this week. I didn't even bother trying to get a taxi. I just jumped straight onto the MRT, the bus and the MRT. I went to, as I mentioned, Nexus International School, which is out in Al Junid side. I didn't even try. I just got straight on the MRT. The traffic was gridlocked. My colleagues at the book distributor, 1 hour waiting to get a taxi. 1 hour in 25 years. I've never heard of this. But just lately, post-COVID, several times I've given up trying to get a taxi. That's never happened before in 25 years. I don't know if it's more drivers are using different apps now. They've got different options. I'm still Mr. Traditional. Fewer drivers is the issue as well. Yeah. So it has been quite stressful, yes, on the roads. You're right. You're right.
You know what I've had more of lately when I'm taking taxis, because I don't like Grab and some of those other services. I've stopped using them.
I don't use them.
I don't like their surge pricing.
I don't know if I'm allowed to say that.
Their drivers are generally, I found, not knowledgeable about where to go and what to do.
Well, here's a stop the press moment. I told you this before. I've never, ever used it. I've never used the app for anything. I've never had it. Okay. I've never used it.
That's interesting.
It's me, right? I mean, my theory is I don't live any further away than 400, 600 meters away from any coffee shop or shopping mall. I'm able-bodied. I'm more than capable of getting my own dabao.
Able-bodied and addled mind?
Something like that. Yeah, okay. Something like that. So I've never needed to use it. I don't begrudge people who do. And as for the taxis, I'm old school, man. I like to use the guys who I've been supporting for 25 years, the comforts, the regular guys. They need the income. I know. I've heard this before. I know that they now share, so you can call the app and still possibly get the regular guys. Yeah, I know that. But no, I've never used it.
But here's what I've noticed in the past 6, maybe 9 months is 2 out of 10 times I'll call the taxi, to come and pick me up and whatever, not a street hail, and they will cancel on me moments before they.
And these are the private,
no,
the apps.
No, this is Comfort.
Oh, I've never had that.
Yeah, these guys are, because it's like they're getting a street job or something along the way.
Oh, I see.
And they just nuke me. I'm like, what? That it might even be a third of the time.
Actually, no, that has happened to me. It happened to me last month.
Way more lately, and that kind of annoys me, because here I'm trying to support taxis versus going to the private rideshare guys. And they're like canceling on me last minute. In
fairness to the guys, they do tell me I am a dinosaur. I admit it. I've got to use the app. I don't. I'm still old school. I still call. Occasionally I'll text message. Steve is laughing.
I do the SMS. I do the Comfort SMS.
I have started doing that. I have to now.
Why do you have to use the app? Why don't these other, why doesn't calling and why doesn't using the SMS work just as good? Right.
When I did get through to the operator, I said, I've been calling for 20 minutes and nothing's happening. One time, you're right, they did cancel on me. And she said, use the text messaging service. It's much more efficient and reliable. I did. And she was right.
Yeah.
But my point is, why? I don't understand the logic. If I call to a human or I text, what's the difference?
She's going to put it in the system. It's going to pop up on the screen.
So if anybody listening, I genuinely want to know this. Why is it better or more efficient to text for a taxi than to call a taxi? Because I honestly don't understand the difference.
Yeah.
As you say, it goes right in the system. And to your one additional point on that.
Yep.
One thing I have noticed, you could be right, scarcity, more competition, fewer drivers, longer waits. First world problems. I admit that. Normally it's 4 to 6 minutes, I'm getting 10, 12 minutes.
Yeah.
And it often is 15 minutes by the time the taxi comes. And I find that the longer the wait, the more chance it'll get cancelled, because the distance is so far, right? That there's more of a chance of getting a street hail or a closer pickup. I don't know.
The guy's like 5K away.
That is true.
And he says, yes, he's coming. And then
because you press that number to tell you, is it 7? You press 7 to your taxi is now. I was like, that's 7 kilometers away. Your taxi is now. You're still like 6 kilometers away.
Terms, that's like across town, right?
I might as well cycle. Dear.
Hey, some interesting news this week. Oh, and first of all, I do want to give a slightly belated birthday shout out to Rob Salisbury. Thursday was his birthday.
Good morning, Rob, and happy birthday, Rob.
Yep. Yes. And who else is with us? Aloysius is with us this morning, and Ian. And
Joanne Flynn says, one way to catch up with pop culture. That's listening on the trains. Well, it is, Joanne, except it's not voluntary.
It's mandatory.
It's kind of compulsory at the moment.
So the acronym, we've got a new acronym in our world. VDS.
VD what?
VDS.
Oh, okay. VDS. I didn't know where you were going with that. Okay. Yes. VDS. Yes.
It stands for Vaccination Differentiated Measures. Now, why it's not VDM, I don't know.
It's VDM, surely.
Well, it's not. So you want to argue with somebody called the MOH, but vaccinated differentiated measures. So this was the thing that said, if you go to a club, you've got to have your mask on, or you have to be vaccinated, right?
Yes.
If you go to certain places, you have to be vaccinated. All that's going away as of Monday.
Right.
No more VDS. So basically you can go anywhere in Singapore without being vaccinated, and they're not going to stop you at the door.
Oh, wow.
As part of our new living with the endemic.
But still masks on public transport.
Still masks. That doesn't go
healthcare
away.
Facilities.
But now, so these events with more than 500 participants, where before you had to show proof of vaccination. Right. I think when we went to the football game, right? When we were at the National Stadium.
Yes.
Yeah. You got to show proof of vaccination.
That's right.
Get in. All that's going to be gone as of Monday. So.
Wow.
Now they're certainly encouraging people to still be vaccinated and boosted and all that, but it's the next phase.
It is. I'm not sure how much difference it's going to make psychologically. The reason I say that is I went to a school this week. 90% were still wearing masks indoors and outdoors.
Yeah.
Their choice. That's fine.
Yep.
Interesting. I was on the MRT again this week, and my mask, I didn't realize, had slipped just beneath my nose.
Oh, bad boy, Neil.
Here we go. I wasn't. There's a caveat. I wasn't on the MRT though. I was walking down the escalator along the platform, and I'm sure he was just doing his job. A well-meaning MRT guy from a distance of about 30 meters away started flashing a sign at me like he's in a football game, waving a banner. He might as well have said,
Go Chelsea, go
yeah,
Chelsea.
filthy Hungmore, put your mask on, you dirty Hungmore.
But isn't it once you get in the station?
Well, here's my point, and this is another
Or-
question.
Yep.
I've got more questions than Mastermind this morning.
More
But-
questions than answers as always.
Yeah, as always, as it should be. As I understand it, and I'm not, playing semantics, it was a genuine mistake. But I thought it was only on the train and bus itself.
Like in the vestibule.
In the vestibule.
carriage.
Yes, in the carriage.
Yeah.
Am I wrong? Not that because I've seen many people now not wearing masks. I was at Tanjong Pagar MRT this week, and I saw many people not putting their masks on until they almost went down the escalator
Yeah.
to get onto the train,
Okay.
which, as I understand it, is fine. It's only when you are on,
Yeah.
meaning I don't wear the mask at the bus stop.
I think that's kind of a gray area,
It is. I put it on as I get on the bus.
Yeah.
So I don't even know if I'm doing anything wrong, but still, from a distance of 20 meters, he sure made sure everybody on the platform knew that my mask had fallen a centimeter.
Because you don't necessarily have to have your mask on when you're standing at the bus stop, right?
Mm.
Until you get on the bus.
Mm.
So does that mean that you don't need to have your mask on until you get in the train carriage?
That's the gray area. I
Ah.
don't know. Can someone listening let me know? Was I in the wrong? I'm sure I was.
All right, let's go back. We got a combination of MRT and Grab here. Aloysius says, a few days ago in the morning when I arrived at the MRT near my office, normally I will walk to the office around 400 meters away, but due to the super heavy rain, I thought I booked a Grab. To my surprise, the charge was close to $20 for 400 meters.
And that's the
That
other
serves
thing.
you right, Aloysius, for being so lazy.
Yeah, and you're the guy who runs 25 kilometers for breakfast.
Exactly.
Come on, Aloysius. Oh, dear.
Wow. But
That-
see, that's what I mean about Grab. That's why
Exactly.
I don't like them. The surge pricing
Exactly.
and all this ridiculous stuff. That's why I still go with Comfort and the other
Exactly. On
city
that
taxis.
point, my kind book vendor, because of the rain, the night before, they booked my taxi the night before.
Yep.
And they sent me, the screenshot of the taxi, number plate and all the stuff. I saw the estimated cost with the surcharges built in.
Yeah.
And it was double. It was
Yeah.
almost $40.
Yeah.
And the distance I was going, I can do on a spike in about 20, 25 minutes. It was probably about 7-8 kilometers.
Unbelievable.
So yes, Aloysius, I feel your pain. But Aloysius, it was 400 meters. I'm just saying.
But you know what? I don't blame Aloysius because every now and
Oh,
then
we love you, really.
No, but you're in those moments and you're just like you're dressed for work, you just don't feel like getting soaked, right?
Absolutely.
And you would like to be able to just get there in a dry fashion. So no worries. All right, Rob Salisbury. Good morning, Saturday, gentlemen. Sounding great. Thank you. Like that your names are correct on the side of the Facebook visual screens.
Well, that is testament to this new guy.
Alden.
He's a bit of a kind of
Alden, come over here. Come
masked
next to me.
singer / Black Widow. He doesn't
Alden
say
is
anything.
Alden is the social media genius behind 1FM and Kiss. Am I right?
Genius?
Yeah.
Oh, are we going with genius so early? It's only 9 o'clock in the morning.
He says he wouldn't go with genius. Exactly. Maybe savant.
Yeah, that'll do.
All
Idiot
right, that's what
savant,
he-
is it?
But
Yes.
yeah, Alden is filling in today for Nora, for Dan, who was filling in for Nora.
Yeah.
So we've got Alden.
We are the filling in show. If you ever wanted to know how high we are on the pecking order, we are the fill-in show.
You don't have to go very high. But
Yeah,
anyway.
exactly right. But
Hey,
just finally, a
up?
bit of fun. I wanted to put this out there. I know I sent both of you this story this week.
Yeah.
As a pop culture geek,
Mm.
it's staggering to me that the two greatest pop culture exports from the UK, the Beatles
Mm.
and James Bond,
Mm.
were launched on the same day 60 years ago this week.
Is that right?
I couldn't believe it. On the 5th of October,
That's shocking, right?
it's unbelievable. What are the odds?
1962.
Correct. On the 5th of October, 1962,
Huh.
the Beatles' first single, Love Me Do,
Yeah.
was released in the UK, and the premiere of Dr. No was the same day.
Wow.
Isn't that extraordinary? Whether you like them or dislike them, that's fine, but no one can dispute their pop culture impact, right, on the planet. Beatles, certainly. I mean, there's nothing greater from a pop culture
Sure.
standpoint in the last 60 years. James Bond is up
Fair
there.
enough. Yeah.
Same day, 5th of October, 1962, 60 years this week. So I'm putting it out there.
There
We'll
you
get the
go.
comments going. Favorite Beatles song,
Fun stuff.
favorite James Bond movie. Let us know. Money FM 89.3. Steve Oaken will give us his shortly. Favorite Beatles song, favorite James Bond movie. Get your comments into Facebook Live. I'm running a kind of straw poll, and we'll announce the winners, if you care, at the end of the show. Best song,
Wow.
off the top of your head, best Bond movie. I'm putting you on the spot.
Goldfinger.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
same.
Moonraker.
That's the
Moonraker.
worst.
Get out.
Steve
Oh,
Oaken
just-
hasn't even started
Steve Oaken
and he's
says
talking
Moonraker.
nonsense.
Are you kidding me?
Moonraker.
We may have to rethink our international news review guest
Alden,
strategy.
how are you on international news? Because we may have to
We're
swap.
about to switch you right now.
We may have to swap the genius.
All right, folks, we got an amazing show for
We
you
do.
today. Steve, of course, coming up, we're going to talk about OPEC cuts. That could have direct impact on our fuel prices here in Singapore. Also, President Biden issued issued an interesting pardon this week. We will talk about that. In our 10 o'clock hour, you mentioned this last week, Neil, in your beautiful places, but the Deepavali big bus tour around Little India with all the lights and everything.
Wonderful.
Have you actually done it yet?
I have done it.
Is it good?
It is great fun. Not very long because it just goes up, Serangoon Racecourse
blah, blah,
Road,
blah.
but it's great fun, very inexpensive.
Yeah.
And we've got the guy coming on from the Indian Heritage Museum to talk all about it.
I'm going to do that this week, actually. And then we're going to head over to the Art Science Museum. This is a mental health month.
This is
right?
great. Yes. They've
So-
put on an art exhibition at the Art Science Museum that all focuses on mental health. Two young Singaporean girls, women are coming on to talk all about their artwork and the exhibition itself. Wonderful initiative.
Along the lines of Mental Health Month here,
Yes.
which we know is so important for people of all ages.
Absolutely.
In the 11 o'clock hour, super excited to have the journalist Jake Adelstein here in the studio. He is the author of the book Tokyo Vice. Now, if you're familiar with HBO and HBO Go, there's a new series, an 8-part series called Tokyo Vice, and it's the true story of Jake Adelstein, our guest today in studio. He was the first foreign journalist at a major Japanese newspaper in history back in the late 90s, early 2000s. And he started, as all journalists do in Japan, on the crime beat. They put you, covering the police stations and all that. And he became interested with the Yakuza, the Japanese, underworld mafia guys. And so he became an expert and started uncovering all these stories on the Yakuza. I can't wait. I saw him yesterday, had a chance to meet him.
Extraordinary.
And it's this, first of all, the series on HBO Go is fantastic.
Yeah, I'm watching it. I've already bookmarked it. I bookmarked it last night on HBO.
Awesome.
His story, honestly, guys, Glenn is not exaggerating. I read up on this guy. His story is extraordinary. First Angmo to be a crime reporter in Japan, speaking Japanese and dealing with the Yakuza, the violence, the threats, the corruption, the blackmail. This guy had to go undercover. And some of the things, I don't know how open he'll be, but some of the things that he did as an undercover reporter, wow, wow.
And he was under the protection of the FBI and his family for a while for some of the things he was reporting. But he would often be called in to meet with the Yakuza bosses.
Right.
They'd want to know what he was doing because, anyway, they have an interesting relationship Yakuza with the press and with the police in Japan. He will tell us all about that in the 11 o'clock hour. Jake Adelstein, author of Tokyo Vice. So can't wait for that. We got a great show for you, folks.
We really do.
Thanks for being with us on Facebook Live, on 89.3 FM, and on our audio app. We will be back in just a moment with Steve Oaken and our international news review after this quick music break.
Saturday mornings from 9 a.m. to 12 noon every Saturday. Only on Money FM 89.3. You're cruising through your weekend on Money FM 89.3. Morning on Money FM 89.3. Traffic.
And there's been an accident on the SLE towards the BKE after Woodlands Avenue 2 exit. Avoid lane 1. Vehicle breakdown on the KJE towards the BKE after the PIE entrance. Other than that, not too bad. Roadworks across the island. Let's have a look at the causeways. Woodlands, 28 minutes into JB, 31 into Singapore. And over at Tuas, 35 minutes into JB and 21 minutes into Singapore. Still moving, just like us, right here on Money FM 89.3. That was your traffic.
If you see anything on the roads that we might have missed, you can share it with us via SMS or WhatsApp at 8855-0893. But please send the message through only when you are safely parked. Saturday morning, only on Money FM 89.3.
International News Review.
Welcome back to our International News Review. Steve Oken joins us in the studio. Good morning, Steve. Great to have you with us.
A Day in the Life. I mean, I don't know that you can really argue against A Day in the Life. It's the greatest Beatles song of all time.
Good choice, Steve. Good choice, Steve. We're putting it out there this morning. Our theme for the day is greatest Beatles song and greatest James Bond movie, as both franchises were launched same day, 60 years ago, October 1962. Okay.
Sadly, Steve failed miserably on the James Bond question,
Yes.
but he's come back strong on the Beatles.
You're very strong on the One Day in the Life. You gave us Moonraker, Steve. Moonraker.
You know, some of those Bond movies, especially the later Roger Moore movies, were so bad.
Well, Moonraker was a response to Star Wars. So they've got laser guns and the beams coming out.
Yeah.
And Roger Moore's flare trousers
Right.
in Moonraker are the width of the causeway. I mean,
Wasn't Jaws the villain?
Yes.
And right, Jaws was the villain.
He was
Richard,
Kiel.
Richard Kiel.
they
Yes.
brought him back from The Spy Who Loved Me.
Right.
Yes. He was the villain. And he had a love interest. That's how ridiculous that film
Yeah,
was.
that's how ridiculous that movie was. All right. Hey, let's get right in. Steve, first story that we're going to talk about today. Hard data now showing that Singapore is eclipsing Hong Kong and China. I think probably we kind of felt this and knew this empirically, but give us the details on what's happening with this.
Yes, well, the Global Private Capital Association, which tracks private capital investments, so private equity, venture capital, infrastructure, real estate, all types of capital. The data is clear that Southeast Asia overall, India as well, is eclipsing China when it comes to private capital investment. And this is where the
Is
money,
this like FDI kind of stuff?
no, this is when, a private equity firm says, we're going to write a check for $200 million into a company like Gojek, or we're going to write or GoTo now, or into a Grab, or into any of those types of privately held companies before they go public. And so the smart money is that if you look long term, the place to be is Southeast Asia, with the headquarters being Singapore. And so for the first time ever, you not only saw what we call private capital exits from Southeast Asia beating China, and you could attribute that to COVID zero and the inability to go and do deals in China because you can't get your money out because you can't go in. But it's not only the exits, it's the investments. And these investments have a 5-10 year time horizon. And people are saying the smart place to put money where you're going to make the most money, Southeast Asia, it's India, it's not China anymore. And that's why you're seeing Singapore become the financial services hub for Asia.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, anecdotally, I saw some of this week. I went to an international school, and they have seen an influx of students from Hong Kong. So it's happening, Steve. But in real terms, putting on my proletarian hat for a second, as opposed to just the usual private capitalists and hedge funds, let's talk about the trickle down, the ecosystems. How does this benefit Singapore in the long term?
Well, I mean, what you see happening, right, is that the new businesses that need the money to grow, right, to grow and become the next unicorns and decacorns and really make a difference in people's lives, they get the funding now. And Singapore is leading the way for Web3 in the region. Now, I'm going to not ask Neil to explain what Web3 is. I'm going to ask Alden to explain
Yeah,
what
I was going to
Web3
say,
is.
can someone please explain Web3? Is that the new?
Okay, Alden's coming on.
That's the third
Guess
Spider-Man
number one
movie,
here.
right?
Okay,
That's the
Alden.
third Spider-Man
Web3,
movie.
tell us what
Web3.
Web3 is.
I have no idea. What
Ah,
Get out! Come on.
Web3 is all these companies that are about decentralization and blockchain. So when you have decentralized finance and you don't have to go through the formal banking system, or you have platforms where you can do all of your work.
I have one of those
different things.
platforms on my phone. Wow, there you go.
So, for example, in Singapore, KuCoin, KUCOIN, received $150 million investment
Private
recently.
investment.
Private investment, because this is so the private investment comes first, and then you lead to venture capital comes in, and then private equity comes in, and then you lead to your IPOs.
Oh.
And so Singapore is seeing when the money's here, so all of these new entrepreneurs are coming here, setting up shop, creating new companies. And that's what's making Singapore such a dynamic place and so attractive for people Alden's age and not our age to come here and set up businesses.
What is this? What is the perhaps unintended consequence here as we come in? As Singapore gets more popular, we've already seen it happening in the real estate market, right? People are being literally priced out of the market on a lot of different levels, especially the private condos and apartments and things like that. So is the risk of hyperinflation or further inflation that what we've already seen real because of the inflows?
It's not necessarily inflation, but it's just a simple law of supply and demand here, right? When you you only have so much supply, and when you increase demand and you don't increase supply, prices go up. That's not inflation. I mean, that's economics 101. That's microeconomics. And so you're seeing that now because you're not gonna. I mean, there's only so much housing, especially when you get out of the HDBs and you have expat housing, and you have so many expats coming in, especially money coming in from mainland China. Prices are skyrocketing, and there's not much that the government can do about that.
Well, they introduced some cooling measures recently.
Yes, but it's going to be, they're limited on what they can do. I mean, you just have basic economics, and so there's limited cooling measures you can have on housing. They can make employment passes, put higher amounts needed for people to come in. But look, you're going to be dealing with higher costs here, especially if you're looking at where the market is most limited. International schools, a perfect example. Housing for expatriates outside the HDB system, that is going to be more expensive. The restaurants where expats go they're going to be more expensive. Flights are outrageous.
I mean, expats, a lot of Singaporeans.
Of course,
right?
no, I'm saying
it's a lot of wealthy Singaporeans here who are doing the same stuff, right?
Right. No, exactly. Yeah. Right. But I'm saying you're going to see, on the higher end is where you're going to see the greater price increases. Right. But like I'm going to Manila. $1,400. I mean, I'm row 60. I mean, this is the back of the airplane.
Have you even seen row 60 before?
Not since a DC-10.
Right. But that's how. I mean, everything is now. It'll balance itself out over time. But we're going to be living with these higher prices.
Glenn makes a good point. I'm thinking of young Alden over here, who now knows about Web3. I'm seeing this daily on social media. This fear of I'm being priced out of my own market in the workplace. Will my son, daughter be able to get a job? Now, if we do have this influx of talent, fantastic though it might be, are there socioeconomic consequences that Singapore has to take into account?
Well, no, and Singapore does, and certainly in terms of employment. I mean, you have that is the easiest way you can control the great demand, and it's already done. I mean, it's difficult to get an employment pass here. It becomes more difficult to get an employment pass. They're not opening up the employment passes as much to meet the demand. So that piece of it isn't the challenge. I think it's going to be the amount of wealth coming in and how you balance all that out. So you have, it's a good problem to have. You'd much rather have this problem than what Hong Kong's going through right now, which is the reverse. Yeah. So it's a good problem to have. Singapore's had this, pre-GFC, there was you saw some of this. What did they do? More international schools got built. Right. They put more restrictions on expats. They gave advantages to those types of companies that worked with their Singapore employees to give them training, to give them international assignments. So yeah, Singapore has experience in this. I have no doubt that they're going to do it well. But the data is showing that it is going to continue, and that the money that's coming in here now is not a bet on what's going to happen for the next 6 to 12 months. It's what's going to happen for the next 5, 10 years and beyond.
Wow.
And people see that the future in Southeast Asia with Singapore as the hub is very, very bright.
Wow. Interesting. All right, we got to move on to our next topic. And that is President Joe Biden has announced that he is going to pardon all Americans who have been convicted at the national level of possessing small amounts of marijuana. Now, this it's going to impact about 6,500 people. These are federal convictions, and of course, there are other state convictions where there are many more. This is an interesting move, especially moving into the election cycle. And tell us about that, Steve.
Well, you have good policy and good politics intersecting right here. I mean, first, the president has said no one should be in jail solely for the use of possession of marijuana. And that arrests that and jail sentences for conduct that is legal in many states has upended lives at the federal level. And so what this pardon is going to do, it's not like there's not that many people who are now in jail who are going to be released. But what it does means it clears your record. So there are a lot of people who have a record, a conviction a federal conviction, right, simple for possession, very tough to get a job, tough to get credit, tough to get housing. And this eliminates that from them. So this will do a lot of good for people who have already, paid their price to society. The other thing is that this recognizes the racial inequality that exists in the United States. Black people, white people smoke marijuana at about the same rates, but Black people are 3 times more likely to be convicted of the crime of possession than are white people. And so this addresses that racial imbalance that we have in the criminal justice system.
Well, and I think the changing more is, and notion in the US with so many states legalizing recreational marijuana use, that people are just feeling like in the US, it's just not that big of a crime, let's put it that way, anymore.
So it shouldn't be a crime at all, right, to have simple possession. And that's what this gets to. But at the federal level, and as Glenn, you mentioned, most people who are in jail or have convictions for this are at the state level. They've been arrested under state law. This is only people who've been arrested under federal law, which would cover the District of Columbia as well. But what this does is it sets the stage for the federal government to do more when it comes to decriminalizing marijuana. Right now, marijuana is treated under federal law more strictly than LSD and fentanyl. I mean, that's ridiculous. Wow. And so the president, through this executive order, has ordered the Department of Health and Human Services and the Attorney General to take a look at that. And that will then so when you change that, which is the follow-on, then you can maybe have more research on medical marijuana. What does this mean? How much can this help people? What do you do at the federal level? Yep. So it's a start, and this is going to be very popular as well with core voters of the Democratic Party too. So it's good politics and good policy.
Well, that was going to be my question. Why now? Midterms are coming up. Is there any potential fallback for him? Would there be, I don't know, moderates or, center voters who might not like this policy? Is there any negativity to this? Any drawbacks?
Sure. I mean, the Republicans have ripped it. One senator from Arkansas said this is a desperate distraction. We're and just to read his quote, we're in the midst of a crime wave. We're on the brink of a recession, and Joe Biden is giving a blanket pardon to drug offenders. And so, yeah, of course, the Republicans are going to attack him on this. But if, again, I'll put on my political hat, what the Democrats need to do, they need to get young people out to vote. They need to get their core voters, which includes Black voters, especially Black young men, out to vote. And if this gives them to say, hey, they understand, they're addressing my concerns, they are doing what they should be doing in government, maybe it will get them to vote. And so, sure, could an election be a coming campaign, an election be an action-forcing event for government to take action? Of course, that happens all the time. So it isn't a surprise it's happening now, but that doesn't mean it's not the right thing to do.
That's hard, though, because those demographics that you just mentioned are traditionally not high voting demographics, right?
I saw what you did there.
What's that?
Not high voting demographic.
Not hot. Yeah, but or maybe they will be. I don't know.
So, which was my point.
Not strong voters.
Yeah,
not strong voter demographics.
Kind of my point. I'm not sure how much difference it will make at the ballot box.
In this midterm election, which is going to go down to the wire in so many races, literally 100 votes could swing a Senate seat. a House seat. 1,000 votes can swing a Senate seat. And so if this brings out a couple thousand people, it may make a difference. And so, it could, I guess, to give the last word to Stephen Colbert, who said, he sees this as the real Green New Deal.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on. OPEC is cutting oil output, right? And this is sending oil markets, obviously, very concerning for people across the world. First of all, what have they said they're going to do, and what would the likely impact be, and can we track what impact might come to us in Singapore?
Well, I mean, there's again, we talk about policy and politics. I mean, here you've got economics and politics working at the same time as well. So OPEC plus, so this includes a lot of the oil producing nations, Saudi Arabia, but then also Russia is involved in this decision as well. They've decided to cut production by 2 million barrels a day. And the reason they're doing this, I mean, there could be two reasons. One reason is that oil prices have fallen from about $120 a barrel down to $80 a barrel. And Saudi Arabia and other oil producing countries need this money. They need the money, and if they cut production, you raise prices, and then this helps them. So that's one reason. The economics, the Saudis say, we don't care what the politics are. We don't, or maybe they do. This is going to hurt the EU. This is going to help Putin. This is going to hurt Biden and the Democrats. And we're doing this in terms of Biden and the Democrats. This is hurting because we have the midterms coming up. And so now you have, right before the midterms, and one of the big debate in the U.S. right now is which way are people going to vote? Are they going to vote on their pocketbook, or are they going to vote on abortion, or climate change, or gun control? And if they're worried about the economy and they're worried about inflation, and this move could, and this would hold true in Singapore, in the U.S. it's expected this could add another 30 cents per gallon.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah. And so if this adds 30 cents per gallon in the U.S., gas prices go up. Right as you head into a vote, it could swing the vote to the Russians. It could swing the vote to the Republicans.
Do that too,
right? Which is and so it is a real political issue in the U.S. You could question: are the Saudis doing this and to help Russia? Are they doing this to thumb their nose at Biden? Are they doing this for their own economic benefit, or maybe all of the above?
And how does it help, though? Because, I mean, from Russia's standpoint, the whole purpose of this was to, try to reduce Russia's income that they use to sustain the war in Ukraine. So how does this help the war, or not help the war in Ukraine? How does this help European fuel prices, or even Singapore? I mean, Singapore, I don't know if there's a direct knock-on effect for Singapore, but fuel prices are rising here. Energy costs are going up here quite rapidly. There are considerable negative knock-on effects here, Steve.
Well, the Russians can't sell right now to the EU, and so what they're having to do is sell to China and others at a reduced price, and so this is going to raise the amount of money Putin can sell his energy for, because it's going to raise the price of energy everywhere. So this helps Russia. It certainly hurts the EU, because now it's going to, as we head into winter, right, in Europe, this is really going to hurt them as they're trying to help Ukraine and with their boycotts of Russia. So this has huge implications for the EU when it comes. It has huge implications for Ukraine. It helps Russia. It could be hurting the U.S. from the Democrats, and the Democrats in the Congress are livid. And they're saying, well, we got to retake a look at our relation with Saudi Arabia. What are we doing when we're giving them all of this defense aid? Right. What are we doing when we have troops in Saudi Arabia to help them vis-a-vis Iran? And now they're doing this to us right before an election. So there's a lot of geopolitics.
It's a clear slap in the face to the Biden administration. Has the Biden administration done something recently to deserve this?
Well, I mean,
vis-a-vis the Saudis?
I mean, well, you could say that the Biden administration has been very cool towards Saudi Arabia, and then you had that famous fist bump, of course, between President Biden and MBS when he went to Saudi Arabia for the first time.
And that was a bad thing?
Well, I mean, that was trying to be a reset of the U.S.-Saudi relationship, because look, Donald Trump really didn't care about human rights when it came to the relationship with Saudi Arabia. And you can argue that previous presidents didn't either, that it was oil dictated and energy dictated the relationship.
Most everybody can agree on that.
The Biden administration has gone the other way, and is especially with the murder of Khashoggi and the presumption that the leaders of Saudi Arabia and MBS in particular either ordered it, certainly knew about it, didn't try and stop it, haven't taken responsibility for it at the leadership level. And so that has been a huge issue for an tension in the U.S.-Saudi relationship. And so you could see the Saudis saying, well, maybe we need to keep better relations with China, with Russia, build relations with Iran against U.S.
It's a not very subtle reminder, not very subtle message. Let's put it that way, right?
And just briefly, what impact does this have on the Ukraine war? Because we've seen tremendous gains from Ukraine in recent days. Russians falling away, just abandoning their strongholds. Will this turn the tide, or are we too much in Ukraine's favor now?
Well, it depends on will Putin continue to just throw hundreds of thousands of Russians into this, continue to lose, but keep the battle going, and then you get into winter, and then will the people of the EU say, I'm willing to be cold, I am willing to pay much more for energy for Ukraine? Or is this going to put some fissures in the EU stance towards the Ukraine and push Zelensky towards a settlement? So this is certainly what part of Putin's strategy,
which is happening now. By the way, UK is already pondering energy restrictions and blackouts over the winter, up to 3-4 hours a day. They're contemplating it already.
We're heading into the
knock-on
heavy fuel.
effects are huge.
Yep, heading into the heavy fuel use system in Europe. All right, let's move up to our last story quickly. We just got a couple minutes to talk about it. Airbnb. So we just had Hurricane Ian in Florida. We know that, and tragedy there, deaths, many dozens and deaths and billions, tens of billions of dollars of damage. But some people who rented Airbnb properties there are finding out that that Airbnb is not covering any of the losses that they suffered renting those places under their standard weather, extenuating circumstances, I think, policy is what they call it. Now, this is not only for Airbnb, but VRBO and some of the other ones have similar policies. The reason I think this story is interesting is because many of us here in Singapore rent those properties when we travel abroad. And now with climate change happening at the rate that it's happening, are we all at risk of potentially finding ourselves on the wrong side of some kind of refund or satisfaction if we run into a weather-related event?
Look, if you are in Singapore and you are using Airbnb, you better know what the extenuating circumstances policy that Airbnb has, because it explicitly covers Asia as well. So basically, Airbnb says, look, there are some things that are pretty obvious. You can have a hurricane in Florida. You can have weather events across Southeast Asia, South Asia. And if you are going to rent during these periods and you get hit with a cyclone, you get hit with flooding, you get hit with hurricane, you're not getting your money back from Airbnb. That is not what we're going to allow you to do. And so, for example, there are dozens of weather events and natural conditions and diseases listed on Airbnb's website. It says if you are going to Hong Kong, Macau, Taiwan, Japan, Philippines, or Vietnam, May through September, and a cyclone comes through or other weather comes through, and you can't go, you lost all your money from Airbnb. Wow. That's your responsibility, not the host's responsibility. If you're going to be, going to India or Myanmar, Sri Lanka, Thailand, May through June, October through November, hey, it's rainy season there. You're out of luck if you can't go because something gets flooded. So Airbnb says, you want to buy travel insurance? Buy travel insurance. We're not an insurance company. Yeah. Although you read the website, it kind of seems that they do give some cancellation. So you really need to go read that fine print.
Well, and travel policies as well. This sort of act of God exclusions in there too. You might be out of luck with a traditional travel policy too.
I mean, for
one
me,
question, Neil, and then we gotta go.
Airbnb, my sympathy is with them. I mean, are we going to see now? This is going to be the norm now, Steve. Less insurance available for climate-related matters. If you're going to go to Florida during hurricane season, I'm not sure how much sympathy we're expecting these companies to have.
Or Thailand in October and November. And so they say, you want insurance? Get your third-party insurance on your own. We're not that type of insurance company. these are obvious risks. You should know them. I don't think most people do. I don't think people say, oh, some hurricane wipes out the condo where I'm going. The condo doesn't even exist. Oh, but by the way, you're not getting your money back.
Yeah.
Interesting. All right, Steve. As always, thank you very much. We'll look forward to talking to you next week.
Hey, and shout out Ava Ho. I'm wearing her new T-shirt.
Oh, there you go.
That we got at the Ukraine event. that we all had
Fantastic.
together.
Very good. Thank you, Steve. Steve Oken, International News Review.
International News Review. You're with Money FM 89.3.
Heavy departure traffic at Woodlands Checkpoint due to tailback from Malaysia. Delays are expected, and travelers are advised to check traffic conditions before embarking on their journey. Motorists are reminded to maintain lane discipline and cooperate with officers on site. Please follow ICA Facebook for more updates.
Chip Station. Money FM 89.3. Money FM 89.3. News headlines from the Straits Times.
I'm Glenn Van Zutphen with some of the stories that made headlines this week. The Singapore Ministry of Health says the nation will move into a new phase of living with COVID-19 from October the 10th. Starting Monday, vaccination differentiated measures will not be required for events with more than 500 participants at nightlife establishments where there is dancing and while dining at food and beverage establishments, including hawker centers. Health Minister Ong Ye Kung says that vaccination has become Singapore's primary defense against the virus. For now, masks will still be required in healthcare settings and on public transport. The Land Transport Authority says that 11 stations in the third stage of the Thomson East Coast Line will start carrying paying passengers on November the 13th. The new 13-kilometer stretch will go from Stevens through Outram Park and Orchard to Gardens by the Bay. Passengers can ride the trains for free on November 11th between those new stations. Japanese Foreign Minister Yoshimasa Hayashi is visiting Singapore and Malaysia this weekend. He will reportedly seek support for his country's diplomatic strategy known as Free and Open Indo-Pacific, or FOIP. He is scheduled to meet Singapore Foreign Minister Vivian Balakrishnan on Saturday. Then he will travel to Malaysia to meet with his counterpart there. The United Nations says that global food prices declined 1.1% in September to their lowest point since January. It adds this may give relief to consumers battered by inflation. Agricultural demand is easing on mounting worries about an economic downturn. Crop exports from Ukraine have also picked up, bolstering world grain supplies that were threatened by Russia's invasion. And finally, the Norwegian Nobel Committee is honoring 3 champions of human rights, democracy, and peaceful coexistence in the neighbor countries of Belarus, Russia, and Ukraine. Jailed Belarusian human rights activist Alice Bialiatsky Russian human rights organization Memorial and Ukrainian human rights organization Center for Civil Liberties have all won the 2022 Nobel Peace Prize. That's your news wrap. I'm Glenn Van Zutphen. Read more at the Straits Times.
Those were your news headlines from the Straits Times. This is Money FM 89.3, Singapore's most influential radio station. Time check on Money FM 89.3.
10:03.
Weather.
The Met Service Singapore is calling for mostly cloudy conditions across the island all day long. Should be a nice day. High is expected around 32 degrees, a little bit cooler than usual. And our lows this evening, 24. Enjoy your weekend.
Traffic.
And there's been a vehicle breakdown on the KPE towards the ECP after Buangkok Drive exit. Another vehicle breakdown on the PIE towards Changi Airport at Pasir Laba exit. We've got a blackout at Pioneer Road, Tuas Road Junction. So be careful if you're heading out to Tuas. Okay, on the causeways, how are we looking? Woodlands, 35 minutes into Johor, 37 into Singapore. And over at Tuas, much smoother, 22 minutes into JB and 20 minutes into Singapore. So keep it safe and keep it right here on Money FM 89.3.
If you see anything on the roads that we might have missed, you can share it with us via SMS or WhatsApp at 8855-0893. But please send the message through only when you are safely parked. Helping you grow your money on Money FM 89.3. Money FM 89.3. Financial updates from the Business Times.
I'm Chua Tian with some of the market stories that made the headlines this week. A Delaware judge had halted Twitter's lawsuit against Elon Musk on Thursday, giving the billionaire time to finance his $44 billion takeover of the social media platform. The move came as Musk said this week that he would purchase Twitter at the $54.20 per share price he agreed in April, on the condition the deal could secure debt financing. The judge's order indicated that she would schedule a trial for November if Musk fails to close the deal by 28th of October. Back home, Singapore's unemployment rates fell across the board in August, with the overall unemployment rate slipping to 1.9% for the month. According to the Ministry of Manpower's monthly unemployment situation report, the resident unemployment rate stood at 2.7%, while the figure was 2.8% for citizens. All three rates were 0.2 percentage point lower than their levels in July. This was also the lowest level the unemployment rates have fallen to since March 2016, but the MOM warned that the labour market could see weakness ahead as economic conditions appear to worsen. And finally, let's take a look at how the Singapore stock market ended the week. Singapore shares finished lower on Friday in line with movements in key regional bourses. The Straits Times Index fell 0.2% to 3,145 points. It also kept a lackluster week with a gain of just 0.5% as a result of a two-day rally. Across the broader market, losers outnumbered gainers 256 to 220 as 1.45 billion securities worth a total of 973 million Sing dollars changed hands. Main board listed Sembcorp Marine became the most traded stock. The counter rose 1.7% after 389 million shares changed hands. Other companies worthy of note include Chinese car maker NIO, with the counter sliding 9.6% to $14.47 on Friday. And that's a finance wrap here on Money FM 89.3. I'm Chua Tian Tian.
Those were your financial updates from the Business Times. This is Money FM 89.3, Singapore's most influential radio station. Saturday morning, only on Money FM 89.3.
Good morning. Thanks for joining us here on 89.3 Money FM. Glenn Van Zutphen and Neil Humphreys with you up until noon today, 10:07 on your Singapore Saturday morning. A cool, cloudy day. It's going to be a good day to get outside and go have some fun around town. Maybe get on one of our park connectors or
Absolutely.
out to one of the many parks we have there. Just so beautiful on a day like today.
Oh, last Sunday, I told you, I sent you the video or picture or whatever. I did 40 kilometers round trip to Changi Bay Point and back. the temperature never went above 24 degrees.
Wow.
It was sublime.
Yeah.
And not only that, you have the sea breeze, which seems to make it even cooler. To me, it felt around 22. It was so spectacularly pleasant. I can't, not enough words.
Are you
Beautiful.
seeing, let's say a year ago when we were talking and we were both out cycling and stuff, you were seeing a lot of wildlife. You're seeing a lot of the monitor lizards and things.
Yep.
Are you still seeing the amount? Because I know that the construction in those areas is continuing apace, and I'm just concerned that maybe some of those animals are being pushed out.
Well, as the post that was shared by Ho Ching will testify, I actually wrote the whole list out, but seriously, I saw around 6 to 7 otters, my old friends, the otters, smooth-coated otters. I saw about 12 to 15 long-tailed macaques at different places, and more importantly, in their natural habitat. They wasn't hanging around construction sites and so on.
Right.
Monitor lizards. And there's a new park connector connection between Lorong Halus, and anybody listening in the East, do use it, between Lorong Halus and Pasir Ris Park.
Okay.
It's only small. It's probably less than a kilometer. But it now means if you want to go from, say, Pongal via Lorong Halus to Pasir Ris onto Loyang and Changi Village, you don't need to go on the road at all
that's
now.
good. That's good.
Oh, because that part was the worst.
Yeah, lots
Pasir
of heavy
Ris-
traffic trucks.
Pasir Ris Drive 3, I think it is. But the long road that goes past downtown East. Now you can go behind, and that stretch there, my word, it was like a poultry farm, but wild. There were roosters and hens and baby chicks everywhere. And honestly, there was one part, Glenn, I wasn't, I'm not a reckless cyclist or anything, but it just so happened that the second I crossed this path, a hen came out with all of the adorable chicks. There must have been half a dozen. And I screeched. My bike skidded. My back tire skidded. I just missed them. And all these kids were looking, and families aghast, like I was the man who shot Bambi. It was like, guys, it was an accident. I didn't hit any. Thank heavens I didn't hit any. But no, to your point, quite a lot of wildlife. Yeah.
Good.
It was a bit of a mini safari, and just wonderful. So guys, get out there this weekend. 24, 25 degrees. Beautiful weather for cycling, walking, trekking, whatever is your thing.
Absolutely. Lots of our friends joining us on
Indeed.
Facebook Live this morning. Good morning, Fuchi Ren, LL Tan, Sing Yuan Lim. Who loves you? She loves you, and I love you.
Yes, well, that is a great point. We were talking in the previous hour. This staggers me. I'm a pop culture geek, as I said. The first James Bond movie, Dr. No, and the first Beatles single, Love Me Do, was released on the same day, October the 5th, 1962. What are the odds? I mean, in talking of pop cultural impact, as LL Tan says, coincidence or divine intervention. Honestly, LL Tan, I'm not particularly superstitious, but Bond and the Beatles on the same day, no longer franchise in movie history, no bigger music band. So we put it out there. What is your favorite Beatles song and your favorite James Bond movie? Let's get through some of them.
Lots of folks have been.
Sing Yuan Lim, She Loves You. Good choice. One of their big Beatlemania singles.
Yep.
It also says, not a big Bond fan, but loves Shirley Bassey. Shirley Bassey's Goldfinger.
Yeah, in the Goldfinger. That was awesome.
Is right up there as one of the best. She did another one. She did Diamonds Are Forever as well. Stanley C. Any Roger Moore is good. I grew up with Roger Stanley. He was my Bond. I love Live and Let Die growing up. Stanley also says, Hey Jude, LL Tan, best Beatles, Let It Be. Best Bond song, You Only Live Twice. Good choice. Which was sung by? I'm putting you on the spot.
You Only Live Twice?
Yeah. You only live twice.
Yeah, I can hear it in my head. But I don't
famous daughter of a famous person.
Oh, what's her name? These boots are made for walking.
Yes.
Yes. Frank Sinatra's daughter.
There you go. And her name is, come on, I'm putting him on the spot. Helping people. Help him.
I know
help
her
him.
name.
Help
I
him.
know her name.
The singer of
Nancy,
You Only Live Twice.
Nancy Sinatra.
Was Nancy Sinatra. Very good. Very good.
See, I had These boots are made for walking though. That was
That was a good
good reference.
That was a very, very good call. Cecilia, another great song. Cecilia.
Yeah.
She's picked Hey Jude and Goldeneye. I like Goldeneye. GoldenEye was Pierce Brosnan's first James Bond. Rob Salisbury, Beatles, All My Loving. One of the early Beatlemania choices. And another one for GoldenEye. We've got 2 GoldenEyes now. So what have we got? Am I missing any? Cecilia also says Here, There, and Everywhere.
Oh.
Now that is actually, Cecilia, I think, my wife's favourite Beatles song.
Is that right?
I think so. She loves Here, There, and Everywhere. One of Paul McCartney's classics. Art Lou. Hello, Art. Good to see you this morning, my friend.
Oh.
My kids and I just watched Dr. No 2 days ago. I'm trying to introduce them to the old classics. My personal favourite is From Russia with Love.
Yeah, that was a good one.
From Russia with
So
Love.
the other thing is, I think the whole catalog is now available
on Amazon Prime.
On Amazon Prime, right?
You know why?
Yeah.
Because our friend Bezos bought the lot. He bought the studio.
Did the whole deal.
He bought MGM and I think Sony. So he now owns the rights to all of the Bonds.
Yep.
He owns the Rocky movies.
Yep.
Anything that came under MGM at that period. It's great because you're right. Amazon, they're all there.
Just in order too, right?
Yeah,
If you're ever wondering.
Yeah. And now, like Disney, they've started doing new documentaries. They've just released one. You'll like it. The music of 007. And I might watch it this weekend. They're all on it. Shirley Bassey, Billie Eilish, Paul McCartney.
Yep.
It looks like a good documentary.
Yep.
And Art, you make a good choice here because I know that From Russia with Love was also the favorite Bond movie of Sean Connery.
Oh.
It was his own. He thought it was the most realistic, the most gritty, and it's also the closest to the Ian Fleming novels. You know, they go quite far away.
Right.
It's pretty, it's a pretty
True,
loyal adaptation.
Oh, nice.
Ian Chan, lots of comments. Ian Chan. Now you're being greedy, Ian. You're being greedy. You've picked 3: Beatles, All My Loving, Yesterday, and A Long and Winding Road. Good choices.
I think
good
Long and
choices.
Winding Road. I like that.
Yeah,
one
I
too.
like that.
Yeah, that's a good one.
That whole period got a real renaissance because of the Disney Plus documentary that came out before Christmas. You know, all the footage of
It
the.
was amazing, right?
I've seen it twice.
Seeing the
I've seen
creativity
it twice.
involved.
And I think that Let It Be album has had a real kind of reevaluation because I was not the biggest fan of that album before. I thought it was quite weak. But seeing that documentary now, I have a greater appreciation for Long and Winding Road and Let It Be.
I like some of the more upbeat songs,
Get
like Get Back.
Get Back.
You know? I like some of their harder, let's say, edgier songs.
I will probably get goosebumps saying this, but the moment the seed is planted in his brain and you see the genesis of Get Back happen in real time, I am getting goosebumps because Peter Jackson, who put the footage together, he puts this this caption on the screen. Paul McCartney is under the pump to come up with new songs.
Yeah.
He is now riffing. He is just about to give birth to the song Get Back. And you see him go junk, jugga, junk, jugga, junk, jugga, junk, jugga, junk. And firstly, that's unusual. Anyone who knows music knows he's playing his bass guitar almost like a rhythm guitar. He's just trying to thrash out anything. And he's just found the riff to Get Back. You know it. And I know it, and the audience knows it.
He doesn't even know it yet.
Paul McCartney doesn't know yet. It's extraordinary. The moment of creation.
Yeah, that's cool. Athanasios is with us. Good morning, Athanasios. How are you today? Good to have you with us.
Ian is just going all out.
Ian is all over this
Ian
today.
is giving us
He's loving this.
Moonraker and
Moonraker.
Octopussy.
Yep.
Now, Ian, I trusted your judgment on the Beatles, and I love Roger Moore, but the common consensus is Moonraker and Octopussy, well, he was getting a little old.
Yeah, long in the tooth.
Yes, I'm being diplomatic.
And that's being very generous.
I love Roger.
That's being
I
very
grew up
generous.
with Live and Let
But,
Die.
You know, the toupee was so obvious.
The toupee, the flares.
He's having to wear his glasses. He can't see anymore.
He's reaching the stage, Glenn, where he's almost using a stuntman to order coffee. Yeah, he's not doing anything.
You know, and the other thing is when you watch the movies, basically all of them up until maybe the Pierce Brosnan ones, but they are so misogynistic.
Oh yeah,
all of them. And
good point.
Look, you know, we like the movies because of they're
time capsules.
They bring up a time capsule for us. But when you look at them through the lens of what's appropriate today and the treatment of women and the treatment of minorities, you know, Sean Connery playing a Japanese man. Are you kidding me?
That's awful.
You know,
You
it's
only
just
live twice.
disgustingly
And he
cringe,
says something
right?
terrible about Asian women.
You know, all of
Asian women are this and Western women are that.
So let's recognize.
Oh yeah,
you
there's
know,
no
the
harm in
inappropriateness
reassessing
of that age.
the legacy.
You know,
That's
based
my
on
issue with Sean Connery.
based on who we are
I was
now.
saying that you make a great point. I was saying that to our good friend Steve Oaken just before we went on live.
Mhm.
As Sean Connery laid the template, Goldfinger, everything fantastic, but the misogyny is inescapable. You know, because hang on, we need to come back. We've got a guest.
Sorry, buddy. 1 second. Let's help with the guest.
Yeah. I was just going to say,
Yeah.
there's one point in either Goldfinger or what's the one after that? Thunderball. I think it's Goldfinger, where there's a woman in a bikini in the room, and the CIA guy, what's his name? Felix Leiter.
Felix.
He comes in and he throws the woman out by slapping her on her bottom and saying, out you go, man talk. He actually goes, bop, man talk.
It wasn't the only time a similar scene like
Can
that
you
happened.
imagine?
I know it's
Yeah.
So yeah, let's view that in the context for what it is, and
Which,
some of the,
in fairness to Roger, he never liked that. He
Yeah.
always played it, as Ian Chan just commented, with a twinkle in his eye, never took
Yeah.
it too seriously.
Yeah.
Keep the comments coming in. Favorite Beatles song, favorite Bond movie.
Love your stuff. Hey, let's go on now. The Deepavali Big Bus Tour around Little India is well underway to give everybody a view of the Festival of Lights throughout Little India, compliments of the Indian Heritage Center's Deepavali Open House. So let's talk now a little bit more about that. Let's bring on Suren Ramadas, the manager at the Indian Heritage Center, talk about what's happening for Deepavali this year. Suren, good to see you today. Welcome.
Hi, Glenn. How Neil?
How you doing? Hey, lots going on for Deepavali this year. Take us through what we can expect to find and see and experience.
Yeah, that's right. So let me share the first two new programs that we have. So what we have is a community Lego Mural and also open a big bus tour. So visitors can come down to Indian Heritage Center to enjoy Deepavali Open House, and they can contribute to the community Lego Mural. So it's inspired by Rangoli design, and what they have to do is just fix on Lego bricks, right, to complete the mural for us. And as
Lego
you rightfully
bricks?
point,
Yeah, it's really
that's
cool.
right, that's right.
Oh.
Yeah. And as you pointed out, the Big Bus Tour is really popular. We've sold out our first two sessions, and we're releasing tickets for the next two sessions this coming Monday, right?
Nice.
So it presents an excellent opportunity for people to get on top of an open-top bus tour, to take in the lights, the sights, and the sounds of Little India, and to see the Deepavali street light up this year.
Brilliant. Well, let's just go through a few of those things one at a time, Suri. And
Sure.
let's talk about the Lego mural first, because I've seen it. I've been there. I've taken my daughter. And just as a side note, I got contacted by a PR agency last night who asked for permission to use the picture that my daughter is in. So I'll expect a check any day now. Okay.
Sure,
And you'll be
sure.
pleased to know.
It's in the mail, Neil.
You'll
the
be
check is
pleased
in
to
the mail.
know I gave full permission, because I want to
Okay.
support, in all seriousness, I want
Yeah.
to support the Indian Heritage Center. I think it's fabulous. So explain the thinking first behind the Lego mural and some of the events that you've got on throughout the month, throughout Deepavali at the Indian Heritage Center, because they're fabulous.
Yeah, so the Lego mural, because Rangoli and Kolam is a traditional Indian design that's typically done on the doorways to welcome people during the festival season, right? So it's done by either using a colored flower, powder or rice grains. But we wanted to sort of reach a new generation, right, to sort of see a different format of showcasing this Rangoli design. So we thought, what better way rather than Lego? So we worked with a Lego artist to sort of conceive the same Rangoli pattern. You know, the designs are very typical designs, and they come in very colorful and very intricate patterns. So in a nutshell, that's it. Yeah, we got inspired, and we thought we can reach out to a wider audience, and it's now a community mural for people to come in and complete by themselves.
Yeah, we're talking with Suren Ramadas from the Indian Culture Center about what's happening for Deepavali this year. What is the kind of split between people that are going and checking out Little India who are ethnically Indian, and those of us who are from different cultures who just want to come down and experience something new and understand a little bit more about Indian culture? Are you seeing a lot more tourists and non-Indians going down?
Yeah, so we just finished the F1 weekend, so we had a couple of
Yeah.
tourists that came in. Yeah, we also have a good following of non-Indians who come in, right? Because this is Deepavali season and Little India is the place to be, right?
Yeah,
So they
sure.
want to soak in the atmosphere, soak in the bazaar, and then we of course welcome them into the museum, right? There's free drop-in activities, it's free admission over the weekends. We're giving out free money packets as well. And we have special programs that people can take part in. So
Don't-
essentially,
Don't forget
we're
the
trying-
food. Don't forget the food, Suren. Don't forget the food.
Yes, that's right. That's right. So essentially, what we want to do is to establish ourselves as the festival hub, right? Every festival needs a festival hub, and Indian Heritage Center is going to be the festival hub for your Deepavali programs and experience.
And that's the
Nice.
key. That is the key, Suryan. I was lucky enough to accompany you on the first big bus tour, the Deepavali big bus tour. I thought it was absolutely
That's right.
fantastic. And I think every community, every whatever you want to call it, cultural hub needs something to build its festival around. And it really feels like the Deepavali big bus tour is like the jewel of all the activities you're organizing for the period. How did you come
Yeah.
up with that? What was the thinking behind it? And what do you hope to achieve?
Sure. So the Big Bus Tour is actually a level up from a program that is very popular, which is our Little India Trishaw Trail. So we used to do this about 3 years back, and usually what we do is a Friday night evening tour. The same way you get on a trishaw and then go to see the light up. But what happens is the program is so popular, tickets sell out within about half an hour, right?
Yeah.
And then what we did is we heard the feedback on the ground. People want more slots and everything. So we got in touch with Big Bus Tours and they're happy to come on board as a partner, right? So we can accommodate a larger group up to 50 packs per bus ride. And then we're offering on 4 weekends. So essentially, there are 400 people who can sign up for these bus rides and take in the atmosphere of Little India. So that's the rationale behind why we wanted to level up to give people a more pleasant experience through the bus ride.
And what is that? Sorry, what does that sign up process look like if I want to go down there with my family?
Our PTX page, right? Indian Heritage Center PTX page. They can follow our social media. We will publicize there as well. Tickets go on sale on Monday at 12 noon, this Monday at 12 noon for the next 2 sessions for the Big Bus Tour. The previous 2 sessions have already been sold out. So we have one happening tonight itself, this evening at 7 to 8 p.m.
Yeah, and they do sell out first. I mean, feel free after the interview to put as many links as you can into our Facebook page and hide any that get missed. They are from October the 1st. Okay, that one's gone. October the 1st, the 8th, the 15th, and the 22nd, I believe, from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. And they do sell out very fast. Okay, let's move back into the Heritage Center because I really want to support you guys. You know, I went to the Heritage Center not long after it opened. I think it was 2015, around that
That's
time.
right.
Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, I went there. And then, of course, you had the COVID situation like everybody else. And it's such a little gem, Glenn, you know, tucked away in Little India. Sometimes I think people don't realize it's there. So tell us a bit more about some of the events. You've got the cookery stuff. That's going to be so popular. Lots of things for the family. I saw one of your shows while I was there, the family show. Tell us about what's going on inside the center.
So inside the center, as you rightfully mentioned, there's cooking demonstrations. We got celebrity chefs like Devagi Shanmugam and Chef Vasun. What they're going to teach us is to do typical Deepavali meals. So Chef Vasun is going to teach us how to do a typical Deepavali breakfast meal, right? And then Chef Devagi is going to do a Deepavali lunch meal. So visitors can come in and see the cooking demo. And there's also some food sampling available after the session as well. For the families, we have the drop-in activities at the lobby. You know, there's an oil lamp painting workshop. There's a mix of performances and craft sessions that they can come in and enjoy as well.
Nice.
Yeah, we've missed a trick there, Glenn. We should have done a cooking demonstration in here.
Yeah, that would have been good. That would have been good. We're talking with Suren Ramdas, the manager of the Indian Heritage Center, talking about what's happening for Deepavali this year. And Suren, we all know, you know, Sunday is a hugely busy time down in Serangoon Road in that area. Is there a particularly good time for families, especially to go down with young kids, or maybe they have a stroller, you know, a pram that they've got to, or even just having the young kids that they got to manage through those crowded streets? Is there a better time for families especially to get down there?
Yeah, so our museum opens at 10 a.m. We recommend them just to come in at 10 a.m., you know, take in all our programs. And then if they want to, you know, visit an Indian restaurant for lunch, they're welcome to do so. And they can hang out till about 2 p.m. So I think the morning is a perfect time. It's not too bustling, you know, the crowds are just coming in. So it's a perfect opportunity to come in with your family and spend a day at Indian Heritage Center, have a lunch, and maybe they can pop back in as well. Yeah.
Perfect.
And just finally, I mean, we forgot to state the obvious, really. The Big Bus Tour showcases the wonderful lights itself. We haven't
Yeah.
even mentioned the lights
Yes.
yet.
Yeah.
Tell us a
Yeah.
bit about the lights and what you will see on this tour.
So the lights, every year there's a thematic influence. So this year the theme is musical instruments, right? So you can see typical traditional Indian instruments like the tabla and the sitar, right? We also have iconic Indian icons such as the peacock and also the oil lamps as well. Yeah, so this is what you get to see on the bus ride.
Well, we certainly hope everybody will get down to Little India during Deepavali and make sure you stop in to the Indian Heritage Center, as was mentioned, open at 10 a.m. and then get online with PTix to book your Little India big bus tour of the lights. Thanks so much for being with us, Suran Ramdas, manager at the Indian Heritage Center. We appreciate it. Hope it all goes well this Festival of Lights.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, we're going to play with much more here on Saturday mornings.
Saturday morning on Money FM 89.3. Traffic.
And we have heavy traffic on the CTE towards the AYE between Ang Mo Kio Avenue 5 exit and the PIE Changi exit. Other than that, not too bad. Let's just check. Oh, there was a vehicle breakdown earlier on Upper Thompson Road towards Newton after Bright Hill Drive. Just roadworks across the island elsewhere. Let's look at the causeways now. Woodlands, 44 minutes into JB, turning into a bit of a traffic jam at Woodlands, 42 minutes into Singapore. Twas 33 minutes into JB and 24 minutes into Singapore. So keep it safe, eyes on the road and ears with us on Money FM 89.3.
Heavy departure traffic at Woodlands Checkpoint due to tailback from Malaysia. Delays are expected and travelers are advised to check traffic conditions before embarking on their journey. Motorists are reminded to maintain lane discipline and cooperate with officers on site. Please follow ICA Facebook for more updates.
If you see anything on the roads that we might have missed, you can share it with us via SMS or WhatsApp at 8855-0893. But please send the message through only when you are safely parked. Saturday morning, only on Money FM 89.3.
Welcome back to Saturday mornings here on Money FM 89.3. Glenn Van Zutphen and Neil Humphreys with you for about another 90 minutes or so. Hope your Saturday is off to a good start. Going to be cloudy across the island today. So for a change, probably not too much rain, and you should be able to get out and enjoy cycling, hanging out, shopping, whatever. As we know, the roads are going to be jammed. So take public transport if you're getting out someplace, because man, the last few weeks the roads have been brutal across Singapore, with everybody rediscovering the island.
Indeed. And speaking of rediscovering, where was Aloysius's comment? Aloysius says, have a great weekend, everyone. Since there are fewer restrictions on COVID, our residents committee has more events now. Will be a busy Saturday morning for me.
He did this last week too. He is a busy guy with his residents committee.
But it's good. It's good they're opening up. I hadn't been there for a while. I saw that my CC in Sengkang is no longer a COVID center as it was.
Right.
So hopefully the classes will come back. My daughter used to do Aikido there. That's what you want. You want your community centers open for the community, right? Things other than just getting shots in the arm, which are important. Yeah. But it's great. It's great that these things are coming back.
Down at the, it's called the, at the Buena Vista Community Center later today is the Tanjong Pagar GRC citizenship ceremony. So Singapore is welcoming both this morning and this afternoon new citizens to Singapore. I'll be down there later on during the tea session to say hello to folks this afternoon as part of the Integration and Naturalization Champions team. I'm a champion.
You are a champ. I've always thought of you as a champion of integration and what was the other one?
And naturalization.
Naturalization. Yes, naturalization.
Well, Minister for State Alvin Tan will be there as well, welcoming the citizens, the new citizens. And even though I'm just a lowly PR, a lowly permanent resident, they've invited me to come down.
Don't sell yourself short.
Welcome the new citizens. Always a big moment for those folks down there. So we wish congratulations to them.
Lots of comments still coming in. I mean, we've talked about big issues this morning, the oil prices, the Ukraine situation, and everything is about James Bond and the Beatles. Ian Chan loves Roger Moore, he says, with charismatic smile and twinkle in his eyes. Art Liu follows up on our point. Agree with your point on how inappropriate and politically incorrect the old Bond movies are for today. And I made sure to mention it to the kids.
Yeah.
I did think that, Art, when I read your original post about showing them Dr. No.
Yeah.
It's fine. I mean, it's PG, maybe a 12. It's not too violent. But it's just the treatment of women, other races, other cultures.
It is so inappropriate. But
it's very post-Britain, imperial power, still trying to assert itself in the world.
But you know, it was interesting because I saw one of those with my son Max, who's 13, and we actually did, you know, use it as kind of a learning moment. Is like, look, this is the way, you know, people were treated and thought about and just talked about, right, historically, and you can see why it's wrong, and it's a beautiful object lesson, I think.
It is, and it's also interesting from, without getting too cheem, to use the local word, you know, an interesting geopolitical exercise to see Britain's place in the world. This is a post-imperial Britain in the early 1960s. The empire has pretty much gone. It's not a coincidence that the early movies, they went to places like Jamaica, which were just hanging on, and Hong Kong and places like that. Very, very deliberate. It's a declining imperial power trying to find its place in the world. arguably it still is with post-Brexit and so on. And James Bond is very much a symbol of this new post-imperial era. So it's fascinating from that point of view. Victor Tan, favorite Bond, Casino Royale. Good choice.
Yeah,
Casino
that is a good
Royale
choice,
is a
actually. Yeah, I
great
like that one.
choice.
Yep.
I'm with you on that one. All right, keep your comments coming in. Favorite Beatles song, favorite Bond movie to Money FM 89.3 Facebook Live.
You know, we have often had guests on from the Art Science Museum at Marina Bay Sands. It is, in my opinion, one of the best and always has some of the most interesting exhibits in Singapore, the way they do combine art and science. And as we know, those two are often overlap in many unintended and intended ways. Now, this month, we've got an exhibition happening there on mental health. And as many of you may know, this is a mental health month. We are mindful of the stresses that have been on a lot of people, not just because of COVID, but because of our everyday world and work and school and all the pressures that we do in our kiasu world that we live in. The new exhibit there is quite interesting. It's called Mental, which I thought was a really good title to have.
Mental, colors of well-being.
Colors of well-being. Yes, we have to add the second part of that. Joining us now to talk about this new exhibit at the Art Science Museum is Charlene Liu, the curator of exhibitions and production at the Art Science Museum, and Jägermeister Tan Yang one of the artists involved. Ladies, good morning. Welcome to the show. And what a great effort to highlight mental health this month at Art Science Museum.
Well, hello, everyone.
Hello.
All of you. Hello.
And it's a pleasure to see you. Yes, we can hear you just fine, Charlene. Okay, you're the curator of the exhibition. Give us an overview, give us a flavor of what visitors can expect.
Well, I think this exhibition, Mental Color of Wellbeing, it's an exhibition that we have co-curated together with Science Gallery Melbourne in Australia. And it really features actually features 24 interactive exhibits and artwork that really sort of explore the societal biasness and confront stereotype of mental health. And it's done by these international artists, designers, and scientists that all coming together. And they really provide a wide variety of what mental health means to everyone. And we present it in such a way that we tackle serious problem in a very accessible manner. And out of this 24 artwork, we have like 7 local edition that really center that the whole conversation in the uniquely Southeast Asia context. And that's why we're really happy to be working with Jägermeister also to present a very beautiful work, in my opinion, in the exhibition itself. Yeah.
Nice. That's great. And just before we bring Jägermeister in, can we just follow up on that, Charlene? It's wonderful, and I would argue quite brave. You know, you've got this exhibition space. You want to get as many eyeballs and visitors and footfall as you can, and yet you're putting on something as important and as necessary, but can be difficult for some people on mental health. I'm just curious to know, what was the thinking behind putting on an exhibition about mental health?
Well, I think we, as an institution, we recognize the importance of having a conversation about mental health and how we can present mental health or tackle topics, or maybe encourage topics and participation in a different manner, instead of like through podcast conversation. What if we do an exhibition about mental health where people can come in and experience the spectrum of variety of experiences that they can deal with and formulate their own opinion? What if we bring together people from all around the world, feeling about different things, and put them in one space and for people to come in and enjoy and also to experience. So I think that's really the idea behind why we wanted to do a show about mental health.
Amazing. We're talking about the new exhibition at the Art Science Museum, Mental Colors of Well-Being. We're talking with Charlene Liu, the curator at the Art Science Museum, and also Jägermeister, Tan Yang who is an artist that is contributing to this. And tell us about your contribution to this, what you are adding to the exhibition, and how you feel about this topic in general.
Hi guys, hello from Bali.
Wow, good for you. Bring us along, will you? Yeah.
Now you're just showing off.
No, it's been a pleasure, absolute pleasure and honor to be included in this exhibition. Not just because of the other artists that are included, but for the topic as well. I think, for my personal work that is in here, it's scenes from therapy. And the first iteration is actually receipts from therapy, both of which is on view. And I think personally, it's the reason why mental is so good is because of the spectrum, like what Charlene said, that there is a whole scale of perspective and narrative. And I think that's what's important in mental health, because there are many gray areas of life. There's a lot of nuances that takes time, that takes people to share, that takes, conversations, because you can't just box things into black and white as much as we wish to. So I think, yeah.
It sounds
Very
an
important.
extraordinary piece of work. As you say, scenes from therapy. It's a visual representation of what goes on in your mind, I believe, during therapy. Is that correct? And this is very brave of you to put yourself out there in a public space in the way that you have. Why is it so important to you to showcase that kind of vulnerability, which is often stigmatized, isn't it, Jägermeister?
Yeah, I mean, from an inspiration point of view, that's my only point of reference. I feel like I can only speak most honestly from my own experience, because everything and everyone's, perspective and narrative is nuanced again. But why I think it's important personally to put out the work, it's a step for me to overcome it. I feel like once I put it out there, there's no taking back, and I can move on.
No, good for you.
Yeah. It's interesting, Jägermeister, that recently I've had a number of conversations with acquaintances, not necessarily very good friends, but every one of them has been going through something a little different, either with themselves or their family members. And they've actually been quite open and honest about mental challenges in their local, world, whatever their world is, family and friends. And it seems to me that people are now opening up a bit more and feeling more comfortable saying, hey, you know what, I've been depressed lately, or hey, my child has an eating disorder or something like that. Do you sense that in the circles that you move in, that there is an openness, more of an openness to talk about mental health issues, maybe in recent years than there was before?
Yeah, definitely. And I think a big congratulations to everyone. Because I think, being able to talk about it, but firstly, I know it's not easy, because it's finding a language to express ourselves, be it if verbally, that's great, that's effective. But for some other people, it might be a struggle, or even for myself, let's say I have to do it through my work or through art, different form of it. But I think that's a huge step forward, that we can first express and then we can connect.
Yeah. Let's stay with that for a second, Jägermeister. We obviously can't see your work at the moment, but try to visualize, if you can, give the listeners and viewers a sense of what your work is actually about, because I know you have a very unique style of presentation. It's a very multi-sensory kind of piece. So give us a feel of what your work actually is like.
Right. So for scenes from therapy, it's a mixed media installation. So the moment you step into the space, you will be greeted with a blue and white checkered stage, and on it you will see two mirrored chairs placed right across each other, like it is in therapy, or at least for myself. And you will see 5 creatures that are hairy, and they are in different colors. They are bobbing up and down. They are moving when they detect your presence. So,
right.
Oh, very. It's almost otherworldly in some ways, right? Much of your work is very kind of ethereal from my perspective, anyway. How would you describe your style to people?
Wow. Ethereal is a nice word, but I would like to think that my style is, it's quite inspired by pop culture, and it's fun. I would like for that to be, because I think, we don't have to take life too seriously sometimes. And I think that might be a good approach sometimes to talk about difficult topics, is to learn to laugh at ourselves first.
Absolutely. I've just posted the link to the exhibition in our Facebook page, Charlene. Feel free to add any other links you want to add afterwards. But just give us, to follow up from Jägermeister, give us a sense of some of the other work, some of the other exhibits that you're showcasing at this exhibition. What can the viewer, the visitor, expect to see?
Yeah, so I think when you first reach the entrance of the exhibition, you will see a newly commissioned work by local artist Divaga. And it's actually a kitchen that is very familiar to most people staying in a HDB, but oversized. You get to see a cooker hood, you see a sink, you see a fridge, and it's quite multi-layered. So as you open up all those appliances, you see that there's video work inside, showcasing daily conversations that we actually have with some of the people who are staying in the household. So, for example, if you go to the sink, there are things to say that, oh, who's going to wash the dishes today? But really, the work center around the idea that food is such an important topic in Singapore. It unifies almost everyone. It's a common topic. And we wanted to really explore that sort of gesture of care that's happening in the kitchen, and also playing on the idea that asking people, have you eaten, is a way of us asking, how are you? In that sense.
Yep.
So yeah, from a kitchen, if you turn left or right, you can see a lot of other exhibit. And one of the key highlights is actually a giant human whale, we call it, where we invite you to step on the human whale to participate and to see whether exercise can help to boost your mood. So it's really such a big, and have a run
Get the
in it.
endorphins going. Huh?
Exactly. So it really explored a sort of the relationship between exercising and mental wellness. And it's done by the artist Hiromi Tango together with a neuroscientist, Emma Barrow. So it's really centered with the intersection of art and science. And there's this large weather balloon that will inflate and deflate and looks like it's going to explode any moment. And it's really a way of mimicking the stress that we're feeling every day. It's like, how much can we take the pressure until we cannot take it anymore? So there's a lot of interactive exhibit that you can play around, visit, and it's really colorful. And so
interesting. We're talking with Charlene Leo, the curator at Art Science Museum, and Yangermeister, Tan Yang an artist involved in this latest exhibit, Mental Colors of Well-Being. Charlene, let's continue on with you. This is quite a departure from the typical, and there isn't really a typical Art Science Museum exhibit, but we've got NASA, we've had NASA there, we've had Star Wars, not just science,
National Geographic, sustainability things, brilliant
artists and
Disney
whatever.
Recently we went to that.
There's been so many different types of exhibits there, and to tackle and present this particular issue is I feel like it's a real step forward for the type and style and topic that the Art Science Museum is covering. Take us behind the decision to have this particular exhibit.
Well, I think it's really that's when we were in lockdown, right? COVID for 2 years. And, with the situation that we're facing, it's really important to realize that, as an institution, we have a power to care and the power to talk about issue that is pertinent to young people and also to many people in Singapore. And if you talk to a lot of people around us right now, mental health is one topic that's quite in everyone's mind about how we have to be in tune with our feelings, and there are more conversation happening. And this season, we really wanted to, after the pandemic coming out from it, we really wanted to have this conversation about well-being. So not just about mental, the exhibition itself, the museum has a series of programs that also look at this whole idea of well-being to different people, because we recognize that each and every one of us, the mental journey is unique and personal. And so we have this season of mental well-being actually starting from the first exhibition, Hope from Chaos, in February, looking at the idea of what the pandemic has done to the society and how we react, and then it tailgates with mental colors of well-being. So I guess that's the primary reason. But as an institution, it's something, we realize that there's a need to care. There's a need to care for the visitors, and there's a need to care for the staff and everything. And we want to bring this conversation to the forefront.
Nice. And that's the key, isn't it, Yangermeister? Final question to you. Charlene mentioned there the personal journey. Everybody's personal journey, yours, mine, when it comes to mental health, is very unique. And that's a key theme of your work, that you talk about your personal experiences in your therapy sessions. You talk about breakthrough, confusion, static, clarity, and exhaustion. That was the journey you went on. What do you hope people take away from your work?
I hope that firstly they have a good time, whether they're entertained, they're surprised, they are asking why. But I think ultimately if they could walk away feeling curious about more, about the other artist's work, about the other exhibition goers, like, what are people feeling now? What's this person standing beside me thinking about this work? If it opens up more conversations, starting with why, I think that would be a great place to start. Yeah.
Yeah, awesome.
Couldn't agree
Ladies,
more.
yeah, thank you for being with us today. The exhibit is at the Art Science Museum, made its Asian debut on the 3rd of September. Mental Colors of Well-Being, is it? And Charlene, how long is it carrying on?
It's all the way until 26 February next year,
Oh, okay.
2023. Yeah.
Folks have plenty of time to get over to Marina Bay Sands and see that. Charlene, Leo, thank you so much. Yangermeister, thank you. And appreciate it. Look forward to getting over there and checking it out. Thanks for being with us,
Thank you.
ladies.
Thanks,
Yeah.
guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very, very interesting, huh? Nice to see that.
Very interesting, very relevant,
Yeah.
and very necessary.
Yeah.
And kudos to both of them for A, putting this on, and B, coming on this show to talk about it.
And let's get our kids over there too.
I'm going.
Let's make sure that the younger people who are stressed because of school and social issues and whatever know that they can have a voice as well and find some kind of assistance if they need it, if they're facing mental problems.
I just say again, I find the breakdown of her work so fascinating, focusing on therapy sessions, the breakthrough, the confusion, the static, the clarity, and exhaustion. We can all relate to those each component. So I'm fascinated to see the work.
Hey, we're going to take a quick music break now, up to the top of the hour with news, weather, and sport. But don't go away. You are going to want to be with us in our 11 o'clock hour.
Yes.
Jake Adelstein is going to be with us, a journalist and author of Tokyo Vice, the amazing book about the underworld in Japan that he wrote and that is now in an HBO Go 8-part series. Jake is in studio with us in just a couple of minutes to talk about it. First of all, his journey in Japan, which is fascinating. And secondly, how he got to know the Yakuza personally.
Honestly, guys, I don't say this often. You do not want to miss this interview straight after 11 o'clock.
Stay with us. Time for a music break. We'll be right back.
You're cruising through your weekend on Money FM 89.3.
Heavy departure traffic at Woodlands Checkpoint due to tailback from Malaysia. Delays are expected, and travelers are advised to check traffic conditions before embarking on their journey. Motorists are reminded to maintain lane discipline and cooperate with officers on site. Please follow ICA Facebook for more updates.
You're with Money FM 89.3. On Money FM 89.3, we ask the questions that matter. Questions that matter to you. Questions you need answers to. Because if it matters to you, it matters to us. Money FM 89.3, Singapore's most influential radio station.
Hi! Want to enjoy higher interest in your savings? It's easy. Credit your monthly salary. Purchase insurance or investment products. Apply for a housing loan.
Saving your hard-earned money shouldn't have to be this complicated. With CIMB savings accounts, earn high interest of up to 2% per annum with no multiple conditions. Plus, join as a new preferred customer and get bonus interest of up to 1%. To grow your savings, visit cimb.com.sg/simple savings. Conditions apply. Insured up to 75K by SDIC.
Saturday morning, only on Money FM 89.3. Station. Money FM 89.3. Money FM 89.3. News headlines from the Straits Times.
I'm Glenn Van Zutphen with some of the stories that made headlines this week. The Singapore Ministry of Health says the nation will move into a new phase of living with COVID-19 from October the 10th. Starting Monday, vaccination differentiated measures will not be required for events with more than 500 participants, at nightlife establishments where there is dancing, and while dining at food and beverage establishments, including hawker centers. Health Minister Ong Ye Kung says that vaccination has become Singapore's primary defense against the virus. For now, masks will still be required in healthcare settings and on public transport. The Land Transport Authority says that 11 stations in the third stage of the Thomson East Coast Line will start carrying paying passengers on November the 13th. The new 13-kilometer stretch will go from Stevens through Outram Park and Orchard to Gardens by the Bay. Passengers can ride the trains for free on November 11th between those new stations. Japanese Foreign Minister Yoshimasa Hayashi is visiting Singapore and Malaysia this weekend. He will reportedly seek support for his country's diplomatic strategy known as Free and Open Indo-Pacific, or FOIP. He is scheduled to meet Singapore Foreign Minister Vivian Balakrishnan on Saturday. Then he will travel to Malaysia to meet with his counterpart there. The United Nations says that global food prices declined 1.1% in September to their lowest point since January. It adds this may give relief to consumers battered by inflation. Agricultural demand is easing on mounting worries about an economic downturn. Crop exports from Ukraine have also picked up, bolstering world grain supplies that were threatened by Russia's invasion. And finally, the Norwegian Nobel Committee is honoring 3 champions of human rights, democracy, and peaceful coexistence in the neighbor countries of Belarus, Russia, and Ukraine. Jailed Belarusian human rights activist Alice Bialiatsky, Russian human rights organization Memorial, and Ukrainian human rights organization Center for Civil Liberties have all won the 2022 Nobel Peace Prize. That's your news wrap. I'm Glenn Van Zutphen. Read more at the Straits Times.
Those were your news headlines from the Straits Times. This is Money FM 89.3, Singapore's most influential radio station. Time check on Money FM 89.3.
11:03.
Weather.
The Met Service Singapore is calling for mostly cloudy conditions across the island all day long. Should be a nice day. High is expected around 32 degrees, a little bit cooler than usual. And our lows this evening, 24. Enjoy your weekend.
Traffic.
Okay, we've got an accident on the KPE towards the ECP after Tampines Road exit. Avoid lane 1. Heavy traffic in the CTE tunnel towards the AYE after Bukit Timah Road exit. Also heavy traffic in the CTE tunnel towards the AYE between PIE Changi exit and Bukit Timah Road exit. On the causeways, how are we doing now? 42 minutes into Johor at Woodlands. Traffic is building. 27 into Singapore. And over at Tuas, 45 minutes into JB and 23 minutes into Singapore. Traffic is building on both causeways. So drive carefully, drive safely, and keep it right here on Money FM 89.3.
If you see anything on the roads that we might have missed, you can share it with us via SMS or WhatsApp at 8855-0893. But please send the message through only when you are safely parked. Helping you grow your money on Money FM 89.3. Money FM 89.3. Financial updates from the Business Times.
I'm Chua Tian with some of the market stories that made the headlines this week. A Delaware judge had halted Twitter's lawsuit against Elon Musk on Thursday, giving the billionaire time to finance his $44 billion takeover of the social media platform. The move came as Musk said this week that he would purchase Twitter at the $54.20 per share price he agreed in April, on the condition the deal could secure debt financing. The judge's order indicated that she would schedule a trial for November if Musk fails to close the deal by 28th of October. Back home, Singapore's unemployment rates fell across the board in August, with the overall unemployment rate slipping to 1.9% for the month. According to the Ministry of Manpower's monthly unemployment situation report, the resident unemployment rate stood at 2.7%, while the figure was 2.8% for citizens. All three rates were 0.2 percentage point lower than their levels in July. This was also the lowest level the unemployment rates have fallen to since March 2016, but the MOM warned that the labour market could see weakness ahead as economic conditions appear to worsen. And finally, let's take a look at how the Singapore stock market ended the week. Singapore shares finished lower on Friday in line with movements in key regional bourses. The Straits Times Index fell 0.2% to 3,145 points. It also kept a lackluster week with a gain of just 0.5% as a result of a two-day rally. Across the broader market, losers outnumbered gainers 256 to 220 as 1.45 billion securities with a total of 973 million Sing dollars changed hands. Main board listed Sembcorp Marine became the most traded stock. The counter rose 1.7% after 389 million shares changed hands. Other companies worthy of note include Chinese car maker NIO with a counter sliding 9.6% to $14.47 on Friday. And that's a finance wrap here on Money FM 89.3. I'm Chua Tian Tian.
Those were your financial updates from the Business Times. This is Money FM 89.3, Singapore's most influential radio station. Saturday morning, only on Money FM 89.3.
Welcome back to Saturday mornings here on Money FM 89.3, 11:07 on your Singapore Saturday morning. A beautiful, overcast, cool day in the city-state, so I hope you can get out and enjoy it today. And Neil, we've had a number of comments coming in all across the morning on your James Bond question, which I thought was great.
And I will ask our esteemed guest shortly. Just to recap, if you are joining us, I love my pop culture. I still think this is freakish. On the 5th of October, 1962, 60 years ago this week, the very first James Bond movie, Dr. No, premiered on the same day as the very first Beatles single was released, which was Love Me Do. So the Beatles and the James Bond series were launched to the world on the same day. So we've been putting it out there all day, all week. What is your favorite James Bond movie and what is your favorite Beatles song? Skyfall has got a bit of love. Casino Royale earlier on. GoldenEye seems to be leading the charge at the moment with Piers Brosnan. Let It Be from Aloysius put in there, and Skyfall. I like Skyfall.
Yeah,
Skyfall was a good one.
Yeah.
Good theme song as well. Ballad of John and Yoko from Tranquility Sea. She said,
That's not a Beatles song. I'm sorry.
well, okay, right. Jake has already started.
Jake is weighing in already. So
Right,
it's
I'm
not
a Beatles
song.
geek as well. It comes under the Beatles, but it was only recorded with John and Paul. I think, if I remember correctly, Paul plays drums on that song. It's just the two of them. Ballad of John and Yoko, says Tranquility, for moi. She's speaking French. Controversial lyrics, no doubt. Yeah, a little bit. So Ballad of John and Yoko for Tranquility. We said Ian with Moonraker and Octopussy. Art loves the fight scene in the train in From Russia with Love.
Oh, yeah.
Which is still considered the template for close quarters fight scenes.
No,
It's
that was
still,
good.
and do you know, I saw it this week.
What's that?
Every James Bond auditionee, anyone who goes for the job, they always audition to one scene. It's From Russia with Love, because they believe that that particular scene shows all of Bond's character, his abilities to seduce, his ability to be kind of violent, but deadly and suave. So there's one particular scene from Russia with Love that Daniel Craig, Pierce Brosnan, Timothy Dalton.
The train scene.
No, I'll find it in a minute. I'll Google it. But there's one particular scene with him and the blonde, was her name Tatiana?
Yeah.
I'm guessing Tatiana, right?
Yeah.
There's one key scene that shows all of Bond's character. They still use it to this day. So, so thank you for the comments. Keep them coming in. We've got just under an hour to go. Favorite Bond movie, favorite Beatles song. Let us know at Money FM 89.3 Facebook Live.
All right, we're going to move into another topic that might actually become your favorite book sometime soon.
Well, it's certainly in that world.
Or your favorite HBO Go
undercover,
series.
Surveillance, elements of espionage, corruption. It's all there.
Back in 2009, a book came out called Tokyo Vice by American journalist Jake Adelstein. And Jake was the first foreign journalist to work at a major Japanese newspaper, the Yomiuri Shimbun, back in the late 90s, early 2000s. And since then, on April the 7th, 2022, this year, the HBO Max series and HBO Go series of the same name, Tokyo Vice, dropped, and it has been a huge success. If you haven't seen it yet, you absolutely must. The story of Jake's life as a reporter in Tokyo, how he got started, and then the relationship that he develops during his research and writing about the Yakuza, the Japanese mafia, and the relationship with culture, with journalists, and with the police as well. We are so happy and honored to have Jake with us in the studio right now to tell us more about it. Jake, good morning.
Good morning.
You look like you're busy over there.
No,
working
I was.
on
I know that I'm here to talk about Tokyo Vice, but the James Bond question is such a good one because I'm such a fan.
Well, let's kick it off then. Have you got a favorite?
I just want to make sure I'm not getting them right because sometimes I get bad with the titles. Oh, okay. My favorite is Tomorrow Never Dies.
Filmed in Southeast Asia.
Because clearly the villain is modeled after Rupert Murdoch, and there's never been a more destructive, evil person on the face of the earth. And to watch James Bond kill him just filled me with such great satisfaction. As a journalist, I was like, yes, please more.
Yeah.
Please bring him back and kill him again.
With a quote.
A fine British actor, Jonathan Pryce, played it, and it was Michelle Yeoh.
Yes,
Michelle
yes.
Yeoh was the Bond girl in that film. Filmed in these parts of the world. I think it was Thailand, Vietnam, those areas.
Oh, they went all over the place.
Certainly Southeast Asia. Yeah, that's a good choice. I like that film to kick things off. Have you got a Beatles song? Keep the theme going.
I hate the Beatles. I'm sorry.
He's crying out all fire this morning.
I grew up hearing the Beatles. I'm so sick of hearing the
love
Beatles. I can't think of a Beatles song that I like.
I love it. I love it.
Oh, but I do like Paul McCartney's "Live and Let Die,"
There you go.
which was the theme song for the Roger Moore debut as James Bond.
Live and Let Die, which is arguably the best Bond theme. For me, it is.
Yeah, and it was
that
probably the best Roger Moore Bond
Absolutely.
film
Absolutely.
for sure.
Absolutely.
All right, Jake, let's move on. Let's talk about you.
Yes.
You went to Japan in the late 90s as a student originally at Sophia University. And then give us just a kind of brief background of how you ended up getting into journalism, because this is where your relationship with the Yakuza and then eventually the book all begins. How did it all come about?
Well, so I went to Japan in 1988 as an exchange student at Sophia University, which in Japan is a very esteemed university.
Yeah.
And while working on my Japanese, I decided that I would write for the school newspaper. And actually, my editor at the school newspaper ended up, a year or two later after I got into a Japanese newspaper, working for the Mainichi newspaper, where he was assigned to cover recently assassinated Prime Minister Shinzo Abe. So a lot of things that I've written about Abe over the years come sort of perhaps from that former editor.
Things come around full circle
They do.
eventually.
It's important to keep those connections, right?
Yeah, sure.
So in Japan, unlike many places in the world, newspapers have this very strange model, which is you have national newspapers with local supplements. So think of like if the Straits Times had like little bureaus all over this area, and there would be sort of like a
Different
Clark
parts of
Way,
town,
like a
yeah.
Clark Way 3-page supplement, right?
Yeah,
Just
yeah,
for that area.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the model like the Yomiuri Shimbun and the Mainichi Shimbun had. So they have a national test, and then you if you get higher, then you're sent to do local news for a couple of years, then you come then to the big leagues. It's very
It's a
different
farm team, right?
Yeah. It's a very different model.
Sure.
So they have these examinations, and the examinations are like an SAT kind of thing. You have, a language section, a current event section, an essay section. And so I was writing for the school newspaper, and I thought, well, I have a year of school left. I already had a job promised to me at Sony. This is how things work in Japan. You get, before you graduate, you do your job hunting, and then there's sort of a backdoor deal, which they call night day. So I'm like, okay, I've got a job. I'm secure. I don't have anything to worry about, but I need to study. I need a goal, or I won't study. So I'm like, all right, I will prepare for these newspaper examinations, just like all my other colleagues in the newspaper. So I took classes and courses and signed up for an essay writing class with Kyoto News, which is one of the places I wanted to get a job. And then to my surprise, when I took the examinations, I did very well on 2 of them and got to, the final interviews. I did not make it with Kyoto News, which would probably have changed my life because they have the best labor union of all the newspapers.
Oh.
They call it the Reporters Paradise.
Okay.
But I did get into the Yomiuri.
And this scene of you taking the test is shown in the first on the Netflix series.
Yeah.
In the HBO Go series, the first episode, and just the stress. Now, do they adequately portray the stress you were under?
No, it is incredibly adequately portrayed. I mean, every detail of that scene is close to the reality. And
It's all in Japanese, obviously.
well, it's all in Japanese, but Michael Mann and the people working on the show, like, they wanted all the details, and I kept everything. I mean, I had my examinations, the scores.
Wow.
I posted that online if anyone wants to see it on Unseen Japan. If you want to see how I actually did on the test. And when I was watching with my girlfriend, Jessie, Ms. Nakamura, like, she was like, you're sweating. And I'm like, yes, this is really stressful.
It's PTSD.
It's,
from taking that
it's
test.
totally PTSD. I totally forgot to do the last page, and I'm like, I am so screwed. I'm like, so screwed. Like, I've like all my effort, and I'm just like, I've dropped the ball here. But
so take us forward. You passed the test. You had to go through interviews, and a whole bunch of stuff transpires. But you're finally a reporter for the Yomiuri Shimbun, the first gaijin, the first foreigner to be in that. And the series portrays it as not an easy relationship, especially with your superiors. Some of your fellow reporters, not so bad. What was that like those first months or years in the Yomiuri?
And as you answer that, can I just jump in and ask? As I understand it, you were the first, as Glenn mentions, the first white crime reporter dealing with the Yakuza. Is that correct?
I was probably the first national news reporter dealing with the Yakuza or
Right.
dealing with the police, right?
So on that point, my first thought was, wouldn't you have stuck out like a sore thumb?
Well, of course you stick out. I mean, that was a plus because you're really memorable.
Yeah.
It was unusual enough that, like, in shortly after I started the job, this weekly magazine, which is now defunct, called Shukan Hoseki, came and said, we'd like to do an article about you hiring this foreigner because it's really rare. So they followed me around, on my bicycle at the police station. There's like these great photos of me talking to my boss.
And he speaks Japanese.
He speaks Japanese, Like, I am not here to sell you a newspaper. I am a reporter.
Right.
I'm not here to deliver your newspaper. For the first couple months, every time I'd go to talk to somebody and I'd say the name of the paper, they would be like, I already have a subscription, or like my paper wasn't delivered yesterday. And I'm like, no, I'm not the paper boy, and I'm not here to sell you a subscription. I write for this paper. So actually, that article that came out, and it had like a little English headline, like foreign newsman for Japanese newspaper, was very useful, because like 4 pages of photos and explaining who I was and what I was doing at the thing. And sometimes I'd like pull out a copy of a copy and be like here, it's not a con. The only problem with that magazine is that I wanted to send like a copy to my grandparents, but it was right next to like this squid porn, photo session. So like I could have pulled that section out, but then my grandparents would have noticed, and they would have like, why are these pages missing? And so I'd like just send them a copy.
Right. So let's just jump forward a bit. So for the benefit of our listeners, well, 2 things I'd like to know. One, when was the decision made by your editors for you to start covering or reporting on the Yakuza? How did that happen? And 2, just explain to us how difficult and potentially dangerous that really is, or can be.
Okay. So first of all, everybody starts on the police beat as a reporter, almost universally, unless they put you in layout first, because that's the basics of reporting, right? Who did what, when, where, how, sometimes why.
Accidents, fires,
accident, fires,
deaths,
purse snatchings. Our training basically was, like you come to the office, and like on day 4, they give you basically a scrapbook, like, okay, here's, in sections like purse snatching, fraud, robberies, accidental deaths, theft, pickpocketing, murder. And, and it's like, okay, that's your training. Like, these are the articles, you realize quickly that there's a pattern to writing those, but
it's very formulaic.
It's very formulaic. But, Japan is a very low crime area. So you would write articles on like, there was, a series of purse snatchings last night in Urawa. And you'd have to be like, you'd have to like, get a little map and map, like, 120 meters later at 9:05 p.m. In the early days, it was very detailed. We would put in like the entire address of the victim and their name and their age, and sometimes the assailant. There's a lot of room to screw up over time. As Japanese population got older and the number of characters per line got bigger, we stopped omitting those personal details. So in the old days, you could, if you were hit by a car, like your whole address would show up in the newspaper. Wow, it's kind of crazy. So I wasn't assigned to cover the Yakuza, but I was originally assigned to cover like 3 or 4 police stations, like a police district. And that's usually how it is. There's, in the police beat has a hierarchy. There are the people in the headquarters who cover the major crime units. And then there's what we call the Keisatsu Moari. And they're basically, you're covering a couple stations or district and news that is not really national news level, but still newsworthy. You write that stuff up. Hopefully you get a scoop. Maybe if you have a scoop, it goes to the national level. But
it's a low-level job, right?
It's a low-level job
when you start.
And then, in my first year, there was this unfolding case of a husband and wife serial killers who were also dog breeders. And one of the people that they had probably killed, they definitely killed, was a Yakuza boss and his driver. The Yakuza boss had been blackmailing Sekine, this is the pet breeder, because he knew that he had killed one of his customers. Oh, wow. So as we all know that sooner or later this case is going to break, right? The Saitama police are investigating it. There were a series of disappearances linked to these people back 10 years ago. There was one organized crime detective who had been assigned to the homicide squad. So he's kind of an outsider. And so my boss is like, okay, you try and make friends with this Yakuza cop because he's an outsider in that section. And then a lot of Yakuza are foreigners, like 30%. So maybe you'll hit it off. And so I did. Just like in the TV series, I went to the guy's house.
And this is the Ken Watanabe.
Yeah, this is the Ken Watanabe case
in the Tokyo Vice on HBO.
In real life, his name was Sekiguchi Chiaki.
Mm-hmm.
I am still friends with his family, except that the cute little daughters you see in the series are now women in their own right.
Adults,
so
sure.
Yuki-chan has like 2 kids. Chi-chan is still single and at 35. So if you want to date a really cute Japanese girl's daughter of a cop, I can introduce you.
So
But you need a steady income.
What was your relationship like with the Yakuza boss? Obviously, he sees you first as an outsider, a foreigner. I mean, there must have been some uncertainty, reticence at first.
Well, so mostly, right, even if you're covering organized crime as a reporter, you don't meet these people.
Right.
I mean, most people I know who've been on the police beat covering organized crime rarely have sat down with a Yakuza boss or an underling and had a conversation. And in my case, just like in the TV series, I got a call. I mean, not directly to me, first was to the office. So there's a Sumiyoshi Kai is one of the three major crime groups, and they had Minami Ginza was their turf in Omiya, which was also the area that I was covering. And he called and left a message at the office like, I need to speak to Jake Adelstein. Put me in touch. He said who he was. Like, this is Kaneko Naoya of the Sumiyoshi Kai. And one of my colleagues was like, I got to the office like, hey Jake, there's this guy from the Sumiyoshi Kai, and he wants to talk to you. Are you like in some kind of trouble? I was like, not to my knowledge.
If you're in trouble, they wouldn't have called, right?
Well, none of them might have called. And I was like, should I take this call? What should I do? So I called Sekiguchi, or who is Katagiri in the TV series, and I'm like,
the police officer,
and I'm like, I got this call from someone in the Sumiyoshi Kai, and they want to meet. Should I take this meeting? Do you know anything about this guy? And he's like, I told him the name. He's like, oh yeah, like Naoya-san, like the cat. He has a nickname because his kaneko can be, if you take the ka out of it, or the kane out of it, it becomes neko, which is like cat. So people call him cat. He's like, yeah. He's like, yeah, a stand-up guy for Yakuza. He's like, we busted him on this fake political party that he created last year to extort money out of people, and he's a total gentleman, confessed to everything, didn't give me any trouble. Like you're top of the line as Yakuza bosses go.
Top of the line.
Top of the line. He keeps his guys in check, and he's like, go see what he wants. So
at this point, are you scared? Are you apprehensive?
Of course, I'm apprehensive,
right.
And we know that the Yakuza don't generally kill civilians and stuff, but they're criminals, right?
Yeah.
They're sociopaths. I mean, you don't have to, I'm working for a newspaper. I know what happens when they get angry.
So you go and meet this guy, and what?
Well, I mean, it's even funnier because I'm like, so I was like, can you give me the address? And he's like, oh, you don't need an address. Just tell people in Nangin.
When you get down in that area.
Yeah, just tell them you're
just
going
ask.
Just ask.
Yeah.
And it's true. I mean, I just asked. I was like, excuse me, I need to meet Kaneko Naoya-san at Sumiyoshi Kai. And be like, oh, Kaneko-san. And they're like, oh, they point this way. And one barker was like, oh, and they're like, are Kaneko-san, would you like to come in and sample the wares? And I'm like, I know, I just need to go. I just need to go to his office. And I find his office, and it looks like a construction firm.
Right.
It's got like a little completely different name on the door. It's like a very, nothing ornate. There's no Sumiyoshi Kai symbol on there because all these groups have sort of corporate logos. And then we walked in, and we had this very long conversation. And because I'm already there, and I told before I went, I called Sekiguchi. I'm like, okay, I'm going into the office, and he's like, yeah, you'll be fine. Just call me if I don't hear from you in by the end of the day. 2
days.
I'll make sure you're avenged. Ha!
Make sure you're avenged. Nice.
Yeah, that was really comforting. So before he even told me, what he wanted me there, he was very, truly like a very gentleman, very smooth. And he said, is there anything you would like to know? And I said, yes, I would like to know your business model. I would like to understand how you make money.
So you're asking a Yakuza boss what his business model?
Yeah, just to add to that for our Singaporean listeners and viewers, give us a bit of quick context who this guy is. Was he a known killer at this stage? Or?
No. Kaneko was. So the Sumiyoshi Kai is like many Yakuza groups. They have office buildings. They have an office in Ginza.
One of the prime districts in Tokyo.
Yeah, they're featured in fan magazines. They're not as famous as Yamaguchi Gumi or the Inagawa Kai. They primarily make their money from extortion and racketeering, bid rigging, little blackmail here and there, maybe some loan sharking. But the basic source of revenue is basically people paying the protection money.
Right.
That's always kind of been how they work. And Kaneko-san owned construction firm. Like he had also had a legitimate construction firm that actually did work.
Right.
A lot of the work they did though was like basically
bid rigging aside.
bid rigging, right? You know, somebody wants the bid, they give them the bid, they take a huge cut off the top, and then the subcontractor gets it.
Right.
And so, and I think that because he really was in a tight situation, and he was really hoping I'd help him. He was extremely like gregarious. Like he explained, like, okay, see, like behind you, this calendar, like this is calendar of our company, like this is our legitimate operation. He said, let me tell you our basic sources of revenue. And he was just very, very like straightforward.
Tells you about all the extortion and the
I mean, no details that I could actually turn into an article, but he was like, and he's like, then we have steady revenue streams from this and this, and it was quite fascinating.
Wow.
And then I was like, wow, you're really smart. Like you sound like you could have been a businessman. And he said, well, it's a little late now, and he rolled down his sleeve, and he's tattooed all the way from there. And that was the first time he wasn't missing any fingers because he's a smart guy.
Yeah.
And that's the first time I was like, okay, yeah. I'm like, I'm not dealing with a businessman here. I'm dealing with the Yakuza.
So what did he actually want from you?
So this is the bizarre deal with him. So this also says a lot about relationships between the police and the Yakuza at the time. So cops would typically drop by his office and be like, excuse me, like, what's happening? Like, what's happening? They would sort of chew the fat.
Like, what's going on?
Like, what's going on?
Yeah.
Like, who's in, who's out? And sometimes they would even exchange like sort of personnel. Like, okay, here's our guys, here's our lineup. And sometimes the cops would be, okay, here's our guys. Here's the new members of our team. Really, I'm really very, very weird, very cordial.
With the view of keeping things calm, right? There was not one
let's like no blood in the streets, no street crime.
You got your turf, you do your thing, but just leave people alone, and let's keep it calm.
And at the time, the Yakuza would be like, if someone brought in stolen merchandise into a pawn shop, they might rat out the person to gain police favor. Like, we had some company bring in
because
this,
stealing was a bad thing.
Stealing was a bad thing.
Yeah,
and
killing innocent people was a bad thing, and all that.
And robbery was a bad thing. So they would offer that information up to cops and be like, okay, thank you. Well, we'll go nab that guy. So there was a give and take on both sides.
Interesting.
So his problem was that the police were coming in, and he would offer them, cup of tea and like some sweets, and very sort of Japanese things to do. And they made a great show of not like, no, thank you. Like, refusing to drink the tea or refusing to drink the sweets.
This was shown in the series as well.
But this is what actually happened. And and that was so standoffish and so not standard behavior that this rumor began to circulate. And probably the rumor was also circulated by someone within his group. It's like, oh, Kaneko has exceeded the levels of acceptable cooperation with the police and has become an informant for them. And the reason they're not drinking his tea is to make us believe he's not an informant, but he's like totally a dog for the police. Like an informant in Japanese underworld slang is called a dog, inu. And this was becoming quite a problem for him because the rumors amongst him and the rumors were spreading above him that like Kaneko has become like a stool pigeon for the cops.
Right.
And he was saying, and so he explained to me this problem. He said, like, I need to know why the police are not drinking my tea. And I said, well, what I said, I'm not really in the business of doing favors of the Yakuza, but what's the downside of this problem not being solved for you? And he said, oh, my men will probably take me out somewhere and kill me. And if I'm unlucky, they'll bury me alive. Like, okay. I'm thinking, wow, that's a serious problem. I'm sort of trying to wrap my head around these sort of twists. Like, okay, because the cops are unfriendly to you, they actually think that you're now like telling the cops everything. Yeah. And since you're a threat, your own men may kill you.
And you've got option A and B, and as to how that might happen.
And so, but he can't figure out why the Saitama police are doing it. So I took this information to a clerk. I think I went to his house, and I'm like, it's like, all right, here's the deal. Here's what I've been told. What should I do? And Senku-san said, okay, let me think this over, and I will get back to you.
This is who again?
The cop,
the police,
the organized crime cop, the cop who has arrested
Kaneko
before.
Who says he's a great guy and easy to work with.
Yeah,
and,
easy to work with, right?
Yeah.
Easy to work with. So he investigates, and he comes back to me, and he says, "Okay, I do not want you to say this is for me, unless you absolutely have to. But here's the deal: the number 3 in his organization told a bunch of cops that Conoco was bribing police officers, and
to try to make him look bad.
Yeah, bribing police officers to get away with some really bad shit. And I don't know what the bad shit was, but and so they're all thinking that if they take anything from Conoco, they're going to look like, you know, that they're people on the take. And he said, my read of this is the number 3 wants to start dealing meth in Omia. And Conoco is really opposed to meth. And I know they've gone head to head about this because the big boss used to be a meth addict. And Conoco is afraid not only is it socially, you know, it's a social evil, but it's a temptation for the boss to get back on meth. So Conoco is opposed, and number 3 wants him out of the way so he can get into the meth business and bring in more revenue and rise up in the organization because he's tired of being number 3.
Wow. So then you take this information back to Conoco?
Yeah, I took this information to Conoco, and he is extremely grateful. And it just clicks to him. He's like, and he's like, can you tell me where you got this information? I said, absolutely not.
Yeah.
And I said, but it's someone who knows you and thinks that you're an okay guy.
Yep.
For Yakuza.
We're talking with Jake Adelstein, the author of Tokyo Vice, of course, now a new HBO Go series as well, since dropped in April. You got to watch this series. Jake, let's fast forward now. Give us an overview now. You've had years of writing. You've had years of connection with the Yakuza. What point did you ever feel your life was in danger? Did you feel that? And what was the deepest you ever got in exposing, a true scoop on the Yakuza?
Well, I mean, in 2008, I got taken to the National Police Agency, and they said, you know, what you're attempting to write about this notorious Yakuza boss, Goto Tadamasa, has really really made him angry, and there's basically a bounty on you. So we're going to watch you because it would be very embarrassing for you to be killed. And I was like that's very nice of you.
What were you thinking?
Yeah, I was thinking, first thing I was thinking, like, oh, who ratted me out?
Yeah.
Because I was working on a story that was career destroying for him. And I was like, okay, I was thinking, okay, I was beginning to think, all right, how does he know that I am writing this story? Or
because you hadn't published it yet.
I hadn't published the story.
Yeah.
But I did figure. Was it a serious threat in the sense that I know there's not that much violence against civilians, but there are examples of journalists being attacked or.
Well, Goto was like a Balkan gangster. I mean, he really disliked this film called Minbon Onna, which came out in 1992. I think the English title is the Gentle Art of Japanese Extortion, which was a movie depicting the Yakuza in a very bad light. And his men attacked the film director, Itami Juzo, at his home and slashed open his face very slowly, so it left scars.
Yeah.
And then years later, they probably threw him over a building when he attempted to make another film about the connection between Gotogumi and a religious cult.
And these are the guys coming for you.
Yeah. So I was like, okay, you know, I accept that I'm in serious trouble. Because at the time, he had about 1,000 people working for him. Not only did he have 1,000 people working for him, but because of a slip up by the police, I actually had a list of everybody working for him.
So at least you knew the people who could potentially come and get you.
Yeah, it's like I was thinking.
So you lived.
Yeah, so I lived, and I was thinking at one point, like, okay, it's me and versus 1,000 people, like, you know. Wow. But fortunately, you know, if you did a sitcom about Goto Tadamasa, which would be a very dark comedy, it would be called Everybody Hates Goto, because
nobody liked this guy.
No, he was so brutal,
okay,
even to his own people, that certainly helped me.
So fast forward, what ended up happening with this?
What ended up happening with is that I wrote the story about his liver transplant that I've been working on for years. It got published in the Washington Post. And then I got a whole bunch of calls from people in the Japanese media, and they're like, is there going to be a follow-up with more details? And I'm like, why don't you just write up the article? And like, it was a little scary.
Yeah.
Then it came out in the LA Times, and then it got translated into Japanese. in this really chicken shit way that I don't know if I can say that. Sorry, on the radio on this way that happens in Japan, which is like the LA
reporting
Times
on what the reporting was.
the LA Times reported that this notorious mob boss, in Japan, did this and this and this, and
so it's not their reporting.
It's not their reporting.
Reporting
right?
on the reporting.
And that started sort of a chain of bad luck for him. It didn't get him kicked out immediately, but there, within this group, you're like, oh, this seems true.
Yeah.
And if it's true, this is a really bad deal. And then he made the mistake of having this lavish birthday party with a bunch of Japanese celebrities, which I didn't write up directly, but I leaked it to a weekly magazine, which then wrote it up. And then that was the pretext that they used to kick him out.
Yeah.
Right. But before they did it, I wrote a long article in a Japanese book, which was published. And I heard later that when they kicked him out, they took a copy of the book and they hit him over the head with it, which made me laugh.
Wow. So the genesis of that story, though, he got special permission to go to the U.S. to the West Coast to get a liver transplant, even though he was a known criminal that should not have been let into the U.S. And there's all kinds of subterfuge behind that whole how that happened. Right?
And
you reported that.
Yeah, and it turns out he wasn't the only one. There were 3 other Yakuza who got in.
And that was a big no-no, and there was involvement by a lot of people on the U.S. side as well as.
Well, the U.S. had good reasons.
Yeah.
But
they let him in on purpose.
Yeah,
right?
They let him in on purpose
because
basically the Japanese National Police Agency, and I actually had a conversation last night at this American Chamber of Commerce thing with someone who used to be at Interpol, was so uncooperative with other law enforcement. You can't catch a Yakuza if you don't know who they are, if you don't have their if you don't know their passport numbers, if you don't have their names, and you need their names in kanji as well, and their dates of birth. It's very hard to detect, and the Japanese National Police Agency would not share that with federal law enforcement. So they were kind of like, well, if we can get it from this guy, of course, because it's Goto. I mean, he totally screwed them. He gave him like a fifth of what he promised, and as soon as he got a liver, he bolted. He stopped. I think he stopped in Hawaii to play golf for a couple of days and came back
just to really thumb it at him.
Just to really thumb it at him.
Wow. Neil, I'm going to let you get the last.
Well, so I'm just curious to bring it up to date. So you wrote the book Tokyo Vice, chronicling a lot of this, and then it becomes a TV series. At any point in that process, was you threatened again? Was there a concern that if you publicize this to a bigger audience, the threats may come back round again?
Well, I mean, we worked with a Japanese company called Wow to. With our producers on that, and they were certainly very concerned that there might be violence from the remaining members of Goto Gumi, or people who are still loyal to him. So this is probably one of the reasons when they had a press conference for the show. I was at the press conference, but I was definitely not on stage.
Keep your face out of it.
Oh yeah, and I should put in a disclaimer here. All the events in the book are depicted are fictional, and none of them are real.
Of course, there you go.
And the TV series as well. And the TV series as well.
The final word is: what is it like to be played by Baby Driver himself?
Lovely. Enzo is a sweet guy. Hardworking. His Japanese is amazing. He was very nice to my kids when they came to visit. I mean, he is a great kid. I mean, I think of him as a kid.
And what do you like about the series? Now, it's not exactly the way it happened in your life or in the book, but they've taken certain license, obviously. I mean, things are fictionalized, and all the disclaimers are there. But what do you like about the HBO series Tokyo Vice from the perspective of your life?
What I like about it is that the attention to detail and the time is truly accurate.
Michael Mann was amazing,
and so were the other directors. Yeah. Alan Pohl did the last episode. He did 6 Feet Under too. Not only is attention detail is great in the way the cops are portrayed, the Yakuza are portrayed accurately. It's very nuanced. Great. You see that there are codes and there are things they will do and won't do. But the thing I like the most about it is that, if you watch the series, you realize that it is telling you investigative journalism is important, that it changes things. And that's something I certainly wanted to communicate in the book, and the fact that that's still left as a central message of the series, I'm delighted about.
And isn't Michael Mann just the perfect choice? Because he's done the investigative journalism with The Insider. He's done the whole cat-mouse cop gang thing with Heat and Manhunter and Miami Vice. So he understands that gritty urban crime scene almost better than anybody.
Well, yeah, and his commitment to detail and authenticity is just amazing. I'm still in touch with him. He's working on his movie about Ferrari in Italy right now.
Right.
Nice.
Brilliant stuff.
Nice.
Brilliant stuff.
We have to leave it there, but thank you so much, Jake Adelstein, the author of Tokyo Vice, and now, of course, the new HBO Go and HBO Max series of the same name. There is going to be a sequel.
Yes, there will be a season 2. I am working on scripts right now,
Because
and
we won't give the spoiler, but there is a cliffhanger at the end of series 1.
Yeah. Your questions will be answered.
Yeah. Okay. Good. That's what I wanted to know.
So read the book and watch the TV series. Tokyo Vice. Great stuff.
Jake, thanks for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
Saturday morning on Money FM 89.3.
Heavy departure traffic at Woodlands Checkpoint due to tailback from Malaysia.
And there's heavy traffic building at Orchard Turn towards Orchard Boulevard after Orchard Link. Also heavy traffic in the CTE tunnel towards the AYE at Cairnhill Circle exit. Accident on Upper Serangoon Road towards Sengkang after Serangoon Viaduct. Avoid the right lane. Also heavy traffic on the CTE tunnel, in the CTE tunnel towards the AYE at Cairnhill Circle exit. So there's heavy traffic around Orchard generally, so be careful out there, folks. On the causeways, how are we doing? Traffic jam, Woodlands, 52 minutes into JB, 35 into Singapore, and Tuas. a little better. 38 minutes into JB and 25 into Twa. So drive carefully, drive safely, and keep it right here on Money FM 89.3.
If you see anything on the roads that we might have missed, you can share it with us via SMS or WhatsApp at 8855-0893. But please send the message through only when you are safely parked.
Heavy departure traffic at Woodlands Checkpoint due to tailback from Malaysia. Delays are expected, and travelers are advised to check traffic conditions before embarking on their journey. Motorists are reminded to maintain lane discipline and cooperate with officers on site. Please follow ICA Facebook for more updates.
Saturday morning, only on Money FM 89.3.
All right, we are back, Glenn and Neil. 10 minutes or so left. It is 11:48. Wow, what a great segment with Jake Adelstein, the journalist from Tokyo Vice. Woo! And he could talk. I mean,
he could talk.
Hours.
He could talk
for hours about this
We
stuff.
could have had the whole show with Jake.
Really watch this HBO. Those of you who are listening and watching, do watch this HBO Go series. It's honestly, if you're not signed up for the series, it's worth signing up for.
I'm going to watch
just to watch.
Absolutely.
This.
I mean,
it's because as he points out, it's the accuracy and the sensitivity that they portray all of the characters.
Well, you lived in Japan, you would know.
I was there right at the same time that he was there. We didn't know each other, sadly, but it's very, very eerily accurate portrayal of just society in general. I mean, I didn't know the Yakuza, like he did, but great to have him in here, and I can't wait for season 2 to come.
And what a compliment, as I mentioned. He's got Ansel Elgort, the guy who played Baby Driver famously.
He's brilliant.
He plays him. He plays Jake. You've got one of my most favorite Japanese actors, who you mentioned,
Ken Watanabe.
Brilliant, fantastic actor.
And he plays that role very, very well.
Right. I mean, Michael Mann. I mean, he's one of my favorite American directors of the last 30, 35 years.
Yeah.
I mean, what a coup to get him. And interestingly, as I said to Jake off air, this has been a very interesting, it was in the cliche development hell for many years. It looked like it wasn't going to get made. At one point, had different directors, different producers. Daniel Radcliffe, Harry Potter.
Oh, yeah.
Was in the frame to play him at one point. I like Daniel Radcliffe, but I'm not sure I can see that myself. Harry Potter getting in with the Yakuza.
Yeah, no, they got the right actors on this.
And so looks like the right guy. I'm watching it. I bookmarked it last night. I am definitely going to start on it this weekend. Tokyo Vice on HBO Go, HBO Max. Yeah, do watch it.
Yeah.
What a story.
Hey, what are you up to the rest of the weekend or the week coming up?
As we speak, I think my wife is about to drop my daughter off at the MRT to meet your daughter.
Our daughters have officially decided they don't need us anymore.
No,
they're making their own plans to see each other.
Yeah, I was told on Wednesday or Thursday. I'm seeing Kate on Saturday. Glenn's Kate. Yeah. Okay.
I know. I actually got the same thing.
Really? Okay, fine. Yeah, great. Go for it.
Our daughters met one time, and then they decided they liked each other and would hang out with each other, and which is wonderful.
It is wonderful, and I've studied many things, but the one thing that continues to elude me are teenage girls.
Oh, you'll never figure it out.
Right? I mean, they are otherworldly beings.
Yeah.
God bless them, and everything else. Because the thing is now, my daughter, her new mantra is, and it's great, she does all her homework, she studies very hard, and I couldn't be more proud of her. But when she has free time, it's her time with friends now. She doesn't want to be with me or my wife. I don't know if you're having this.
Oh, yeah.
At all. And last night, I had to almost threaten her, blackmail her. Can we have 1 hour together as family to watch something on Netflix, Disney Plus? We're watching that Welcome to Wrexham. But honestly, it's like blood from a stone. Are we that bad?
And it only gets more so.
Do you get this?
Of course.
Are we that toxic?
It only gets more so.
And again, it's not a criticism. She's only in her room reading. So
Yeah.
I'm delighted that she's reading. I really, really am. But my thing is, look, it's Friday night. Let's 1 hour. Can we do 1 hour? And I'm compromising. Are you doing this? It used to be a movie. The odds of me getting her booked
used to be all day.
Right? The odds of me booking my daughter's time for 2.5 hours, forget it. I could get a 30-minute episode of something. She-Hulk, welcome to Wrexham.
Just anything.
Anything. Give me 20 minutes. Can I get 20 minutes? So yeah, I'm absolutely delighted they're spending time
Welcome
together.
to the future of your world.
Honestly.
Yeah. Well, in fact, we're planning a family night tonight because
There you go.
I literally have not seen my kids all week.
And my daughter loves it because
Like-
I've been busy all week.
Because
so
I've been busy, they've been busy, and
Yeah.
our paths have not crossed at all.
yes,
So
we'll try. We'll
we'll do
watch
something
together.
tonight. Good luck with you, and make sure your daughter is done with my daughter by dinner time, okay? So that
Yes.
your daughter can come home and
Yeah,
have
I
some
love the
family.
fact you think I have any say or agency in this relationship.
Very good point. Very good point.
I'll try.
Well, that's fun. Well, cool.
Yeah, no, and then my wife and I were going to pop to Pongal. Nothing too exciting, just to do some bits and bobs
Nice.
in Daiso, Japanese again.
Daiso, sure.
Yeah, I love Daiso.
Can't get away.
What about yourself? Then tomorrow, the usual bit of cycling. I think I might
Yeah.
cycle out to Changi Bay Point. It's become my regular route at the moment.
Nice.
After that, I
Good.
do not know.
Good. Going to go to the, as I mentioned, I think in the last hour, going to go to the new citizens ceremony today, the Tanjong Pagar GRC citizenship ceremony, as part of my contribution to the Integration and Naturalization Champions team for
Brilliant.
the Cairn Hill Community Center, which my family lives near. Tonight, family night, and tomorrow, going to the beach for beach volleyball.
No, I do know where I'm going.
What's
It
that?
was your recommendation, and I got the kind invite. I am going to the launch of Comcrop tomorrow morning.
Oh, you are? Oh,
I'm
good.
going to go, yes, at Woodlands,
Great.
Singapore's first ever fully commercial rooftop farm.
Yep.
Out at Woodlands.
Our
We
friend
had
Ben.
Peter, isn't it?
Peter. excuse
Peter
me.
Barber.
Peter Barber.
We had him on the show before.
Yeah.
Singapore's urban farming pioneer, sustainable food, you know,
Awesome.
from soil to plate in a day.
Available in Fair Price Finest.
That's right.
Right now. So go support them. Comcrop is the name.
That's right. I'm going out to their rooftop greenhouse farm tomorrow,
Great.
9 a.m.
Awesome.
The minister will be there. I think it's Grace Fu, but please
I
don't.
think you're right.
I think it's Grace Fu,
Yeah.
but there will be a minister there to officially launch their rooftop factory farm at Woodlands Loop.
5,000 square meters, I believe, is
Yep.
the size of that. And I was out there before we had him on the show, as you might recall. Yeah, he invited me to go to that as well, and I can't because Kate's got her beach volleyball tomorrow morning. But that is you're gonna be amazed at what they're doing up there. And
Yep.
this is a great story for Singapore. Locally produced food, jobs for Singaporeans. Farm to table within hours.
Yes.
The stuff is fresh. Comcrop products are available, like I said, in Fair Price Finest and Fair Price, I believe, and also online, Lazada, Red Mart. You can order them that way too.
Absolutely,
So
we've done it already.
buy local.
Absolutely, buy local and watch local. Quickly, we've got a few comments coming in. Lots of support for Jake. Art Liu, amazing interview with
Awesome.
Jake. Well done.
Thank you.
Rob Salisbury, Neil, I sense Inspector Stanley Lowe could be heading to Japan. A collaboration with
Indeed.
Jake. I wouldn't say no to that, Rob. Kelly, thanks for sharing, Jake. Admire your
Yeah.
bravery too.
Thanks,
Could not
Kelly.
agree more.
Good to hear
Teresa,
from you.
awesome. I am glued to the live Facebook feed about the Yakuza story. Thank you, Teresa.
Awesome. Yeah,
Such
thanks,
a great
Teresa.
fan of the HBO series. This interview is awesome.
Yeah.
Could
Thanks,
not
guys.
agree
Appreciate
more.
it.
I
Hey, you
do.
know, you can after we finish the stream today, the show today, you can go back on our Facebook Live page, Money FM's Facebook page, and you can replay this interview if you want to. The interview stays on the Facebook page, and then of course we'll be podcasting on our Money FM Saturday mornings podcast page. All of these interviews that we had today, so you can always go back and listen, download them, do whatever you want to do. Neil, we do have to go, but I just did want to mention a couple of things, and we need to pay tribute and send our best wishes to our friends in Indonesia,
Yes.
the victims of the stampede at the football match there,
Yes.
and our friends in northern Thailand, the victims of that horrible stabbing and shooting at the children's kindergarten there. 22 people perished in that. And it's not a fun, light, happy topic for the day, but we just can't leave this show today without acknowledging that a lot of folks are hurting right now over those issues.
Yep.
Not just in those countries, but people who have relatives here in
Absolutely.
Singapore. So we just wanted to send our best wishes out to any of you who might have been impacted by either of those events.
Yeah,
and I know you talked about especially the stampede on your
terrible
podcast.
Terrible tragedies. I mean, it's up to 131 people now
Mm.
in the Indonesian stampede. The police chief has been arrested, 6, facing charges of criminal negligence. Look, I know we're running out of time. You just hope there has to be, in the football case anyway, there has to be serious repercussions and inquiries. It can never happen again.
Yep.
Letting off tear gas inside a stadium is actually not allowed.
Yep.
I don't know why it happened. FIFA has very strict rules on this. They need to know, and they need to find out why Indonesian police officers allowed tear gas to be set off against civilians who were not really doing anything. I'm
Yeah.
not saying they were blameless, but they were just running across a football pitch. And it was the tear gas, sadly, tragically, that caused the stampede towards a gate, an open gate that was just not big enough to accommodate that many people.
And that was the other thing, inadequate ingress and egress from the stadium, right?
Yeah, I've covered games in Southeast Asia. The logistics, the organization, the policing, sometimes not the best. So let's hope positive. If there can be a positive, this can never happen again.
Well, let's send warm feelings to, and good feelings, positive feelings to anybody who's involved in any of those.
Yeah, when I heard about the Thailand thing, the first thing I did was I hugged my daughter.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's all you can do. Hug your family, appreciate your loved ones, and spend as much time with them as you can.
Hey, we are thankful to all of you, our Facebook Live, our radio, our streaming fans. Thanks for being with us, friends, today. Another great show for you next Saturday, 9 a.m. to 12 right here on 89.3 Money FM. We are going to say goodbye for now. Hope you have a great weekend. Make it a safe weekend. Enjoy your time outside. Nowhere unexpected. And we will see you next week. Thanks, everybody.
You're cruising through your weekend on Money FM 89.3.
Hi, want to enjoy higher interest in your savings? It's easy. Credit your monthly salary, purchase insurance or investment products. Apply